Good evening, all of my fellow gamers and friends out there, and thank you for joining me for another late night open mic with Nerdy Neo. And I've got an awesome guest that I've been wanting to talk to for months. And similar to Extra Zero last week, his schedule was a little tough to work around, so I had to move my usual Thursday night to Tuesday night to accommodate his schedule, which I'm happy to do because I just want to get people on here to talk about video games. So, with that said, I will bring in my awesome guest, the Fractured Filter.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me. I'm glad we could make this happen finally.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This is a new thing. I'm not used to restream. I'm used to always
StreamYard,
StreamYard. Yeah, so this is
they're
another little
essentially
change
the
up.
same.
Right.
The one difference and the reason why I've been using Restream when I have guests, I'll probably just go to OBS strictly once I fully understand how to use it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but the main thing that I use Restream for is because you can stream to two platforms on the free version, whereas StreamYard you can only do one.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I do that so that I can stream to Twitch. Not that I have anybody on Twitch, but it alerts my Xbox
Twitch, get
people
on it.
saying, "Hey, this person's live." So if anyone on my Xbox crew sees that on True Achievements, which is our I'm a big achievement hunter, so it
Oh
shows that on my
yeah,
on
yeah.
my
I know
page,
about
and
that.
anybody might see it, be like, "Oh, let's go see what he's talking about." So. Well, thank you for joining me. I said this
Absolutely.
right when you hopped in the lobby, but I have to say I do love your chosen internet avatar, as Kyle Katarn is my second favorite Star Wars character of all time,
Who's your first?
Darth Bane.
Oh, good choice, sir. Good
So
choice.
I think that is
I'm
how
right
we.
now. I'm right now listening to the Darth Bane book. I'm on Rule of Two at the
Oh,
moment.
nice. Yes,
Already
I
went through
think
Path of Destruction.
I think that's how we initially met, and I'm not even
I
sure you
forget.
might have
Yeah,
realized it, but I'm pretty sure we met in Open Airlocks Policies stream talking about that, and I saw
either that
your chat
or either
pop
OG
up.
Star Wars.
Um,
If you've been in
I
her chat, because I know I've been
might have
more in
been.
hers chatting with people than I have Open Airlock because he's always streaming later at night than when I can be there for. Sadly, which I'd
I
love to.
d-
It's just I'm like,
I
dang it, I'm
don't
sorry.
often catch her streams live. I usually watch them
Oh,
after
okay.
the fact, but not as of late. I haven't been in Tim's chat live as lately, but I do always watch them after the fact. But there was a long
Yeah,
period
me
of time,
too.
basically, since I found him at a couple hundred subs. I've basically been in his chats live for
Mhm.
years. So I'm pretty sure that's how
We're
we met because I
somewhere,
think I saw
probably,
him
probably,
highlight your chat when talking about favorite Star Wars characters. And I think you said very
probably
similar Kyle
Bane.
Katarn and someone. I'm like, yes, me
It
too.
would have been. It
Uh,
would have been. Yeah, it would have been either. Katarn is always going to be in that roster, one way or another, and then it would be probably either Bane or Dash Rendar.
nice.
Usually makes the mark, just because like especially Katarn and Rendar, those were the two boys that really got me introduced into the expanded universe. Because like, oh
Yes.
wow, these two characters, they're in Star Wars, but they're not Luke or Han or Leia or Chewie. They're completely new characters. This is
Yep.
awesome. I'm
Yeah.
in.
And you probably, because up until I started my channel just a few months ago, I've been in the internet circles as Brobafett. So you probably would have seen me back then
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
Brobafett.
yeah.
So, which is not. You might think that's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I do like Boba Fett, but he's not actually my top favorites. That was
He
actually
was never a favorite for me. I never understood the appeal until I started going through more of the EU. I listened to the audiobooks for the Bounty Hunter Wars, and then when the whole Darth Kaida stuff was going on, and they kind of got more a little more into like Boba Fett, what he was doing with the Mandalorians. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see why people like him. Because I mean, let's face it, like we all saw, he just kind of he had his one appearance in Empire, and then he gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit.
yeah.
So it's like I'm
So
not
I
seeing
got
it, guys. I'm sorry. He's got a cool aesthetic, but
Yeah, so I got dubbed by my bros by my bros at the time as Bro Fett because we all had bro names because we were big fans of How I Met Your Mother, and Barney is like bro for everything if you've ever watched
mhm.
that show. And so I was a big Star Wars guy, so I got dubbed Bro Fett. So that's where that
There you
came
go.
from. So um But yeah, let's say hi to some of the chat in here. I see Melee K, and I see James as well. So yeah, Fractured Filter here was just saying that he was hanging out with you guys in your movie night, which I was not able to make tonight, but the timing was perfect for you guys all to hop in here right afterwards. And no, I do like Mace Windu, but he's not.
He went out the window.
He did go out the window, but he's not my favorite. But I do like Mace Windu a lot, and Kay and I have been going back and forth the last few weeks because she does not like Mace Windu, and I do, and so that's been.
Well, I like his character. I like the whole like that he created the Vapad style to help counterbalance his own weaknesses, and I thought that was a really cool aspect of why he created that style.
Yeah,
and everything, and I like how the idea of it is meant to feed in the dark side through him, but then he pushes it back out at his enemy, and kind of it's like a release sort of thing. So I was like, damn, that's really kind of a cool idea. So I always liked how that worked out, and you can see why he fought Sidious as well as he was, until you start realizing Sidious is playing with him. Well, from my point of view.
Yeah. And so James says that we both have great taste because those are also some of his favorite characters. Yes. Let's see here. We got Static. What's up, Static? Coming in here saying, watch out. Oh, he's saying, watch out. Fractured bites.
I do.
Oh, okay. I'll keep my distance.
Fighting commentary.
1.21 gigawatt 1.21, although technically it would be gigawatt, but the way he says it in the movie is gigawatt.
Yeah,
hello. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. I like Katarn, but Revan will be my favorite EU character and Bastila. Excellent choices. My best friend IRL, Revan is his favorite character.
But they did Revan so dirty. That dang book.
I was wondering if you're talking about the book or the Old Republic.
The book and Star Wars: The Old Republic. They did him dirty. I was so frustrated with that game. I have a love-hate relationship with that game.
Understandable.
I really do.
Okay, I do have to agree with this. Someone meme Mace Windu. That would be funny. I would laugh at that. And Paul Hadouken always hopping in here to say, hey guys, glad you're here. Internet Crusader. Another good buddy. Can't stick around. It's bedtime. Yeah, pretty late, but thanks for dropping in and saying hi. And we got Duke Devil. I think you are also Blake Barrett, if I remember correctly. Good to see you, man. I've hopped into your streams a couple times. Bradley Burnett, thank you.
He likes to keep reminding me of things I've said.
So thank you for joining. Yeah, I've been in a couple of your streams. I was usually lurking. But thanks for joining. Everyone knows that the bestest character in Star Wars are the Disney ones: Rey, Palpatine, Ahsoka, Sabine, female Force forever.
The bestest ever.
The Revan book. James does not like the Revan book either. So I didn't hate it, but I definitely understand where you could.
Well, it was especially the ending. Like, he gets the mask, he slaps it on, and then all of his memories are supposed to flood back into him, supposedly, and he regains his like full power thanks to mask unlock. Like, what the heck? But then he goes into the fight with the Emperor, and he decides to try and not. He doesn't embrace the dark side. He doesn't embrace the light. He tries the middle ground, which, if going through the Darth Bane path of destruction, even his dark side with his holocron said, you can't play that game. And he tried to play it. And it's like, but you knew better. You had your memories back. That means you knew your actions as a Sith. You know your actions as a Jedi. You know I could go on forever.
Real quickly, so you're not a fan of the Revan book. Was there an Old Republic book that you were a fan of?
Yes. The Deceived book. Yeah.
The Malgus book. I like that.
Well, Malgus, just like getting to know and God, how they did him dirty, and Sutor was so sad. But yeah, the Deceived book was great, and I especially loved just the description that they give you for the Force lightning. The way it's described as cooking their insides. You're like, oh, that's why it's so messed up. Why it like does so much damage. Then you realize the severe pain like Luke was in when he was getting fried by Palpatine in Return of the Jedi. You're like, oh my god! It just starts to all kind of like culminate into like that's why the dark side is just so vicious and evil.
Yeah. All right. So Paul is saying, and I have been hearing on my end as well. Your audio is kind of going in and out a bit. Sounds like maybe noise cancellation or echo cancellation or something might be
Maybe, and
cutting
I
you
might
out
have
a little bit.
to gain a little bit. Yeah,
So, it's not too bad. But it's noticeable.
yeah.
So that's not. So, all right. Well, switching gears into our, what my channel is all about is video game. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, do you want to touch on a little bit more Star Wars? Given that Kyle Katarn is your avatar. How did
Yeah.
Kyle Katarn, James, are you here listening to me? Katarn, not Katarn. There's an R at the end near the end there. I just got to give him some crap about that. But how exactly did Kyle come to be your internet persona or avatar?
I've kind of sorted through it, and like originally I was just kind of mostly using this as just kind of my avatar. I just used my logo and everything. But I wanted something a little more, at least with like a human face. And I was like, well, I can use a bunch of different things that I love messing around with now since I discovered how to do this whole thing. And while we were going through Ahsoka, I was King of the Potato People, which if you're familiar with Red Dwarf, this is where this is from. But it was just mainly just bringing out using one of my favorite characters, and this was thanks to Tuscan Bob. I saw how he did his avatar with the moving head, and I looked online. I'm like, how can I do that for myself? And I found this YouTuber. Oh God, he had the whole tutorial on the plugin and how to set it all up. Because like I said, I wanted at least more than just the StreamYard little mini avatar with the thing around
expanding
it.
Circle.
The expanding circle. I'm like, that's just so boring. I wanted something that might like attract the eye a little better.
Have you seen what DJ Axis has been using lately?
Are
you familiar with DJ Axis?
Yeah. I just haven't seen what he's used.
Okay, so he's been in a bunch of streams lately where he's Todd Howard, and he has a very similar
I know his. He's got that face, so. And I used it on one of our thumbnails. It's great.
James says, "Let me speak with my quirky dialect."
No.
For the whole Katarn.
Yeah.
Have you considered VTubing?
I did. I have, and I've looked a little bit into it. Like I asked Horror Amarada how she has.
Oh yeah, she does that, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does that whole thing, and I asked her how she had it set up, and like even from the website that they'll like set one up for you, or at least like sell one to you or whatever. All the characters all look so. Best I can say is anime, but they just have a very like not very masculine look. So I'm like, I
don't think I've seen any. Not that I've gone looking. The only VTubers I've ever seen are ones I see clips of. And
they're generally like very pretty, like, very pretty.
Feminine.
Yes, they're very feminine, and I want some ruggedness. God dang it! I may not be as rugged as Katarn here, but I want that. Prefer that over.
Exactly.
So, I've considered the idea. I'll just have to look into it a little more. But otherwise, I'm fine with this until I decide maybe one day
it's a good choice.
It goes away. It goes away. So until then, I like doing this. And I found a video to get the animated background going. So you got Coruscant back there with all the Skylane traffic and all that. So.
Also good choice.
It's fun messing around with OBS and what it allows me to do, and to have this whole virtual camera and everything. So that's kind of the fun part of all that.
Yeah, I got to mess around more with that and get more familiar with, because I know there's so much untapped potential in OBS that I haven't even scratched the surface of.
Yeah, this is the YouTube channel guy, Michael Fire Junior. That's where I got the tutorial for doing this. It's the bobbing head. It's the uh, OBS plugin tutorial for plugin scale to sound. It's a scale to sound, so it gets set to your
Oh,
microphone,
okay.
and then you just
Based on
kind
the
of
level
adjust it.
volume.
Yeah, basically, and then you just adjust it however sensitive and how much it expands. And there you go.
Yeah. Paul says with the feminine VTubers, you don't want to be lofty?
Hell no. Next thing you know, I start having bad takes and everything. Ugh.
Almost as bad as James. Hey, speak of the devil, we were just talking about you, DJ
Hey,
Todd
DJ.
Howard. I was just telling Fractured about your Todd Howard avatar you've been using. But yeah, okay. Who isn't Chuck Norris more rugged than?
That's I wasn't saying he was the most rugged. I was just saying
Right.
he's more rugged than me. So
Yes.
there we go. I was not saying who was the king here.
Kay says she would yell at you like she yelled at Lofty.
That was okay. I watched
I need
that.
to
That
see
was
that. I heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
okay. I was like, I told you. Like I was even getting frustrated. I'm like, no, she's right. Let her dig it. Oh,
I gotta go see
boy.
the clip for that.
That boy Lofty, he needs a good smacking.
At least my takes are honest and true. That they are. So
Yep.
I love Cocktarn, so I can't necessarily disagree with it. So, all right. Well, wow, already 17 minutes in, just getting through the intros, almost as bad as FNT.
Oh yeah. No, they'd still be on. Just saying, getting through. Getting through to Ryan Cannell at that point.
So, well, I'm glad we were able to make this work and finally get a chance to chat.
Me too.
So I almost don't want to ask you this because I think it'll spoil something that I hope that you can be a part of sometime in the future.
Oh, okay.
But since we're on the topic of Star Wars, I figured we'd kind of start there. I know. Let's see here. I might be getting my streamers mixed up, but I think I've seen the thumbnails. You've been going through KOTOR lately?
Yes, I have recently.
Okay.
I did one today. I did 6 hours of playing that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a good stream. So I played KOTOR when it was new, and I played through it once, and I haven't played it since. So it's been a very long time. So I'm going
almost like be going to it for the first time again.
Almost. So I've never played KOTOR 2.
Oh.
So at some point I'm going to stream KOTOR 1 again. I'm going to go dark side because I went light side the first time I played it, which I know James will.
He's all over that. Yeah.
And then
he's trying to tempt me in the chat. He keeps trying to do his best Palpatine to try and manipulate me into it.
So I will. I just realized I'll do that once I get past what I'm saying here. But yeah, so once I finish that, then I'll do my first playthrough of KOTOR 2. I think I'm going to stream all that.
There you go.
So, what? How many times have you done KOTOR? Like a lot of times, or is it your first time in a long time? And what side are you playing?
I don't know how long ago it was that I think, and I deleted the save, so I don't remember how long ago it really was. The last time I got all the way through, but like I've gotten through it a couple of times before, and then like after the initial runs of getting through the game, it was just called like I would start it up, get to a certain point, like maybe off of Terrace, a little bit into Dantooine or onto Tatooine and stuff like that, and then I just kind of like get sidetracked, distracted by another game, and then I'd move on. And then it wasn't too long ago that I was like, you know what, I need to just play through this, and I got the start as a Jedi mod, threw that in. That made it really easy. Easy-ish. It just gives you a real boost to get through Terrace a little faster than normal. And I'd beaten it at that time. I still had the save where I was just was at Malak fighting him on the Star Forge.
Okay.
And then it had been some time, and now I'm back at it. So I'm like, hey, I've been doing these streams. I finally got through the Katarn saga, which was the whole game part of the game plan, and I'm like, all right, what shall I go into next? Oh yeah, people have been discussing Knights of the Old Republic, so why the heck not? Let's do it. So I fired it up, just slapped in some HD texture mods, and there was a restoration mod that I grabbed, a bug fix mod, and then that was it. And
Okay.
basically, I've been kind of playing like vanilla-ish. The only thing I did though was I played through Terrace without leveling up my character. So then once I got to Dantooine, it was just called leveling up nothing but my Jedi skills.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It was a bit of a challenge because then I was really relying on my squad mates to get stuff done. So it worked out though. I made it, but I didn't do as much as I wanted to because a buddy of mine was the first one that I knew that did it when he played through.
Played it that way.
Yeah, he played it. He played through Terrace without leveling up, except he also completed the all the bounties that you can do, and then also completed the fighting arena with all the different fighters for that, and even without leveling, and then even defeated the Star Killer guy, because that means you have to basically like you have to have, of course, like the melee shields, but also you have to basically become grenade happy as hell, stim yourself like crazy, and all sorts of stuff. But like he managed to do it, and I was like, and I was just like, I want off Terrace. I want off right now. I was getting to that point. And I got Canderous. I'm like, all right, let's go. And so I just left. Yep. I was like, oh crud! I just left so much stuff undone. Oh well, I'm going. So I was still in a good spot.
Challenge.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun doing it, trying it for myself. But yeah, I mean, KOTOR Knights of the Republic is just a game that I still love to this day for sure. Knights of the Republic 2 is another fun game. The advantage that you're going to have certainly walking into it is that it'll have like the restoration mod.
Yep, I've already got that installed.
Nice. Yeah. He always points in the right direction.
Yeah, because I still have the KOTOR discs, but I was like, nice. I don't want to deal with that. So because I just got my new PC up and running, because I've had it for a while, but I couldn't. I was having trouble getting it running, so I've had it for a while.
Yeah.
So just earlier this month, I was like, all right, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to figure out how to get it running. So I finally got it up running, replaced my old one now, because my last one was like 12 years old, and I never got that one with the intention of gaming, so it couldn't run anything that wasn't basically on pixel art. So now that I've got this up and running, like the first thing I did was install Steam and put some games on my wish list, and some of them have already gone on sale. So like the KOTORs, I got them for like $3. So as soon as I did, I'm like, James, what do I need to do to get that KOTOR 2 restoration mod fixed, installed? And he pointed me in the right direction. But yeah, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna play KOTOR 1 again and then KOTOR 2 because that's been so long.
They do connect, and there's some good overlap for the storylines and everything.
And James says that KOTOR 2 is better than KOTOR 1, that's surprising because a lot of people consider KOTOR to be the greatest Star Wars game of all time.
Story wise, I'd still put Knights of the Republic 1 ahead of it, especially like I look at it from when they were first released. So first released, KOTOR 1 is definitely much more of a complete game, and the story is more fleshed out. Knights of the Republic 2, while still fun and it has an interesting storyline, you definitely get the feeling like there was stuff that isn't keeping it all together. And yes, like James is saying, it oozes Sith. It's very much Sith. And that has that strong focus. But like the other part that I did like about Knights of the Republic 2 is that it kind of expanded on more of the ideas of the Force and how it works in the world, and how somebody tries to get a certain idea in their own mind on what they can accomplish to it. I don't want to spoil anything. But how it then just kind of, the Force as it is does work in particular ways. So it's a fun story, and with the restoration mod, it'll make it a lot like smoother for sure. But like initially when it first came out, It was kind of rough. It was kind of rough, but I still
Yeah,
enjoyed the
it
hell out of
was,
it. So,
because it was, 2 was done by Obsidian, whereas
yes,
1 was by BioWare, and
right.
2 got I guess they were trying to hit a deadline,
They
it got
ran
pushed
into it.
out too
Yeah,
early. It was
they
not
ran
ready
into
to
a lot
release.
of weird development stuff that BioWare didn't. And Obsidian is really a funny company because they really do know how to kind of mimic another company's style.
A lot of people consider Fallout New Vegas the best one of the rebooted Fallout games.
Yeah, the
That was
reason why
Obsidian as well,
the
but
big
broken at
reason
launch, but once they fixed
broken
it.
as hell at launch, the part of the reason for Fallout New Vegas being so well liked too is that it brought back the RPG mechanics that Bethesda effectively eliminated. They brought back a lot of the extra RPG mechanics, the stat stuff, the different stat um, stuff that you could tweak for your character and all that sort of thing. They really kind of dug into Fallout 1 and 2 and brought that to the forefront, and in particular too with like some of the story and especially the settings, since you're basically back in California or New California, whatever.
Yeah,
But
because I don't know anything about Fallout 1 and 2. The first one I played was 3.
well, yeah, and trying to go back to those games is especially rough since they're the isometric
Yeah,
top-down turn-based RPG. And if that's just not your gameplay style,
that's
it can be kind
not
of
my
rough
thing.
walking into. Yeah, so not a only if you're really wanting to kind of go back to the originals and seeing where it started from. Because I mean, I've always loved Fallout 1 and 2. Especially like Fallout 1, you got MacGyver in there voicing a character for a town. Richard Dean Anderson.
Richard Dean Anderson, thank you. I
Yeah.
was like blanking on his name, even though
I
watched
either
all
know him
of
as
SG1, so
right.
I
was
know
just gonna. I either
O'Neill.
know him as MacGyver or as O'Neill. My brother and I joked that somewhere down the line, MacGyver had a horrible accident. He lost the mullet, and the mullet was the source of his power, and then he became Jack O'Neill.
I like that.
So, but no, but like that, and especially like Fallout 2 got really like pop culture referencey and a little more like they kind of
for it.
Some of it, yes, but like that was the intent. Was like for some of it was just like okay, that was just a quick little throw-in thing. It doesn't have any bearing on the story, and then they had everything else going on, but they just like kind of put in these little pop culture references. Like you run into a TARDIS, you run into a crashed transport from I think Next Generation or something like that, or the original Star Trek. But they put in like little stuff like that you just run into while you're traveling on the map.
Okay,
but that was all that was really meant to be. Was just like, oh hey, look what you found, sort of deal. And even a guy where you you have to answer questions. The guy in a robe on a bridge, and if you're from Monty Python,
Holy Grail.
Yep. So it was just like goofy little things like that. Exactly, okay. Gigawatt. O'Neill with 2 L's.
Yeah. Yeah, and Gigawatt and James are both saying that, KOTOR 2 was brushed out about not even like a year after the first one. Very short development time.
They definitely needed.
And KOTOR 1 wasn't even out yet when they were making KOTOR 2. So,
is that right?
Can be a cause for some issues.
A little bit, yeah.
So
actually, kind of explain some of it. Yeah,
it's good that most people who are more so objective about it and not just stick to their initial impressions when it came out broken have come around to say that KOTOR 2 was still an excellent game.
Oh yeah, it was still I still enjoyed the hell out of it back then too. I flip-flopped a little bit, like at a point I was like, oh my god, KOTOR 2 is way better than 1. But with time and kind of reevaluating everything, it's like story-wise, like they're both great, but like you unfortunately the way it sets up for Revan and his reveal and all that, it really is just amazing. And then like basically KOTOR 2 helps kind of sprinkle more of Revan's lore and backstory into it. So you get more filler. I hate to say filler. Filler kind of comes off negative. But just like this expanding upon more of his story a little bit, while also
more fleshing out him.
Fleshing out, thank you. Yes.
That has a positive connotation.
Yeah, it does. It does. So fleshing out his story while also being centered on a whole new group of people, which for some people might be why they're like, well, what the hell's going on here? I don't have Bastila, I don't have Canderous, I don't have these characters that I'm used to from the original game. Where are they?
Yeah.
So they aren't the main party. You got a whole new
which James says that's why 2 is objectively better. There's no card.
Well, he pops in, but he's just more of a cameo character than he is a main character or a party character. So that can be looked as a good thing or a bad thing.
It's funny how people typically, for the most part, have kind of at least a negative impression, if not outright hatred for Karth as a character. And and what's funny is that one of the most disliked characters in Mass Effect is the same voice actor, Kaidan Alenko. Most people dislike that character as well, and the same guy did both. It's like, God, the guy can't catch a break.
I almost wonder if they did that on purpose too. Like BioWare, whoever, I don't know who's the exact writers, but they're like, all right, we got another kind of character that's a little bit on the whiny side and could be kind of a punching bag for the main character. You know, I think we know who should voice this character.
That guy. So,
God.
But yeah, when so I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay of KOTOR.
Yeah, I understand that. It's again very turn-based RNG whole.
It's probably the closest, well, up until somewhat recently, which I talked about on, I think, the last episode James and Kay were on of Party Chat. We talked about some turn-based RPGs, and I talked about some that I actually did enjoy, but those are very much more recent.
Right.
Because when I was, younger, to me, I didn't know that there was such a thing as real-time RPGs until I discovered Oblivion. So to me, RPG meant turn-based combat. I hated turn-based combat. So this was kind of the thing that kind of eased me into it, because I call KOTOR a pseudo turn-based, because it's not exactly turn-based, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the Jedi Outcast and Academy are my favorite Star Wars games.
Well, Jedi Outcast and Academy you can't ignore, just for the fact that you finally have 2 games that really make you feel like a freaking Jedi using a real lightsaber.
Yes.
That was the brilliant thing about it, because the developers were smart and they looked at Bushido Blade.
And
Bushido Blade games,
if you said earlier, and other great characters, Jaden Korr.
Jaden Korr, yeah. And if you played Bushido Blade 1 and 2, the sword combat and just the weapon combat in general in that game is very deadly. Like you take a hit.
I haven't played.
Yeah, you take a hit, you take a stab, you lose an arm, you can lose, or you can just die in one hit. The developers for Academy and Outcast were like, we need to do this. Yeah, we need to take this and run with it, and that's exactly what they did. Because I also got extra confirmation to that fact. Somebody had done like a kind of retrospective review on Outcast and Academy, and one of the devs was in the chat. It was dropped a comment and was like, "Yeah, and that's exactly it. They got their inspiration from Bushido Blade, and that's how they developed this. The lightsaber combat was around that style of everything." I'm like, that was the best thing you could do. Why have they stopped doing that? For the love of God.
I was just discussing that in Discord with someone just earlier today. That I was comparing the lightsaber combat of
because
Outcast and Academy to like Fallen Order. As like Outcast and Academy, a lightsaber feels like a lightsaber. It's still in Fallen Order. I haven't played Survivor yet, so I can't say, but I'm assuming it's basically the same. It's a freaking light. It's a glow stick.
It's so
it doesn't feel like a lightsaber.
Force Unleashed started it.
That's
and
true.
Then Jedi
I like
Fallen Order,
but I think it's overrated. And
I need to replay those games.
So good.
Yeah, I need to replay those games. It's been a long time since I've played through them, but that was basically the beginning of the Nerf bat lightsaber.
Yes,
that's basically what they are. They are Nerf bats, because all you're doing is just smacking the ever-loving piss out of something until it finally dies. And it's like, but that's not how a lightsaber works. I know. I've played Outcast. I've played Academy, where not only can the enemies kill me in one hit if I really mess up, but I can kill them in one hit if they really mess up. So I need that give and take here. Please, people, please just look at these old games. They knew how to do it.
Yeah, so where I was going with that is just that I wasn't a huge fan of the gameplay of KOTOR, but it is still a great game. But I laud it as one of the best stories in a game, and
absolutely
top tier when they talk about games with plot twists. One of the best,
right? And the thing I would say to like for the kind of combat and everything, just like when you're next time going to play through it again, just kind of pay attention to even the animations, because that's something that I like doing is catching a lot of the animations that they were really good at. Even though it's like this turn-based whole thing, they really make sure to have the enemies and your own characters, especially with like the lightsaber fighting, that they are matching up with like parries and hits and stuff like that, so you can get that extra little bit of detail from the fights that while it's kind of you're kind of clicking button, do your turn, they have a little bit of that flashiness going on of going, okay, you are kind of seeing the lightsaber fights going on like you would from some of the movies and stuff, so you kind of got that going on a little bit. So sadly, they aren't Outcast style lightsabers.
Yeah, when I first played KOTOR, because I didn't understand, it was literally the first time I ever played something that was based on dice rolls, so I didn't understand this concept. So I would see like my weapons hit them, and it would say miss. I'm like, what do you mean miss? I saw it hit him.
Yeah,
and it drove me nuts. It wasn't until years down the line in college when I got into D&D with some buddies that I started to understand them. I still haven't gone back and played KOTOR yet, but I booted up KOTOR once. After I played D&D for a while, and then going through the starting screen, and it was talking about dice rolls, and your skills and stuff. I'm like, light bulb, this makes sense to me now.
So I think I got kind of introduced to that myself via the old Fallouts, because they'd kind of have that going on too, where you might like get up close and smack somebody with a melee weapon of whatever kind you had, but you'd have that miss. Or you'd be shooting them in, even though like you could have like nearly 95%, or you can think of the meme from freaking XCOM.
I was gonna say XCOM, 99%.
Like kind of like that whole thing, and then miss, and you're like, well, what the freak? I just no. But I that's where I certainly kind of learned that frustration. But then once I got to KOTOR, I'm like, okay, I'm used to this sort of thing already.
Yeah, now that I understand it, it doesn't bug me as much. So I'm definitely more open to turn-based combat now than I was back then. Yeah, TJ agrees. Outcast is so damn fun.
It is. I replayed those recently too, and they were still just as fun as last time.
I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I did a test stream with my new PC to kind of put it through its paces and see if what it could handle. I started with some older games. One of the older ones I started with is Jedi Outcast. I started up the first level. I just threw some cheats on so I get my lightsaber. And it was just so much fun just going around and just wrecking the stormtroopers with my lightsaber just on the first level. So I wanted to touch on this. What do you have, Casey? What do you have against turn-based combat? I don't have anything against it. It just wasn't my thing for a long time. Does no one appreciate chess anymore? So
I grew up on
board games is different than video games for me. So.
And I came up with like the old JRPGs and stuff like that. So I was used to turn-based combat since the Super Nintendo days, especially with like Super Mario RPG, Final Fantasy VI, and all that. So it's like, okay, I understand what's going on here, and I've never been bothered, and especially Final Fantasy VII is still one of my all-time favorites for that series. So, like a lot of people, that's I'm not saying any.
Only
I know
normies like Final Fantasy.
I have the most normiest of freaking takes with that one, but I'll at least say I'm still playing the original. All you suckers have moved on to the remake. I'm still playing the OG. I just throw in some mods and just make it look pretty. I'm still playing that stuff.
Yeah, given my opposite of a penchant for turn-based combat, I've never played a Final Fantasy game because they never interested me. But
I understand that. I get it.
I'm an Xbox guy, so I don't even have the Final Fantasy VII remake. But given that it's more of a real-time combat, I'm definitely more interested in it now than
And that's what I
The old
expected to
version.
happen. I expected that to happen when they announced it. Like I knew the combat was going to change. I was like, I get that because they already kind of experimented with it with Crisis Core, and I liked Crisis Core. I liked getting Zack's backstory and stuff like that. And the combat system was kind of fun. It was kind of weird, but unique in its own way. But it was a little more action oriented. And I was like, okay, if anything, I'm sure they're going to be probably like adapting from that or like Final Fantasy 15 or whatever. I just wasn't expecting them to butcher the whole bloody story and completely turn everything upside down on its freaking head like they did. And I'm like, out. Nope, not dealing with this. So I'm very particular sometimes.
The whole, like I was saying earlier, how I saw it connect and it said miss. That's why I like Jedi Outcast and Academy so much, is that when it makes contact, it does something. So it's more of a skill rather than chance of a dice roll.
Oh yeah, like you really had to maneuver. You really had to maneuver, especially like I'd say a little more in like Outcast, considering some of the late game enemies when they started throwing the reborn dark Jedi at you. But then like Academy, I got remembered like you end up fighting waves of those sons of guns, and you really have to, especially depending on what lightsaber form you're using later on. If you've got the dual sabers or the staff saber, you really have to look out and figure out know the moves. Yeah, know the moves and know how and when you could like activate the special moves that you got, so you can like nab somebody right behind you. Yep,
get the right time to do this type of swing.
Exactly, when you got the two-handed sabers, you can like have go like spread it, reaching out on each end and stabbing one guy on the left of you, stabbing another guy on the left of you, right and left of you, whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just those little things that you really have to like maneuver around, because then again, you can leave yourself completely open, and then there's a third dark Jedi coming out of nowhere and stabs you right in the face. Ha ha, dead.
Yeah.
Too bad for you, Jedi.
Sam, that's my main thing of why I like real-time combat.
Right. Yeah.
So, and Gigawatt, yes, exactly. I 100%. That's the same boat I'm in. I didn't like turn-based combat either, but KOTOR is good enough to make me overlook it. Yep.
Yeah.
Same here. So, given that you mentioned that you just played or somewhat recently, sounded like you played through the Katarn saga.
Yeah. I went completely out of order too.
Oh, okay. So you did like the machete order.
So like I played I played Jedi Outcasts first. And then I think I played Mysteries of the Sith.
That is a very weird
Mysteries of the Sith Mysteries of the Sith was one I had never played.
Oh,
like I knew about it. Like I knew how you got to play as Mara Jade, and that's where Kyle was introduced as being her mentor and all that. But I didn't really know the full story, and it was especially fun to discover how far back certain planets even were mentioned, like Dromund Kaas.
Yeah,
Dromund Kaas, I thought was like Sutor and everything. I'm like, oh, that's a brand new planet. I did, because I'll say I'm still very much an EU normie. I still have a lot to learn. I'm still going through a lot of it. I'm trying to get as best knowledgeable as I can be. So I admit I'm still learning. I'm a Padawan. But I'm like, oh my God, that goes that far back. It's like, it's really cool just to kind of discover that stuff. So I played that. I played Dark Forces.
So before you get too far off that, because I had very similar, like, mind blown moments when it comes to like consistency in the EU.
Yeah.
Despite people like, the Disney shills, like, they needed to get rid of it because it was so inconsistent. Yeah, like the Disney continuity is any better.
Yeah, we got rid of the EU so we could have a better continuity. Oh, by the way, our third movie, we already screwed it up, and we have a guy that goes, they can fly now?
We contradict our own stories in the same story. So yeah, good luck arguing that one. But anyways, because I played Mysteries of the Sith back in the day when it was new.
Yeah, I played just a demo of it, and then that was it. And I'm like,
and then like 15, 20 years later. How I'd have to go look at the dates. I don't know. But whenever I ended up playing, the Old Republic, and I played Sith, which you start. I think I'm pretty sure you started on Dromund Kaas.
No,
No, you start on Korriban. That's right. But you make it to the Dromund Kaas, that becomes kind of like the hub world essentially. And I was like, wait a minute, the same Dromund Kaas from Mysteries of the Sith? I was like, oh my god, that's nuts. And then the other one is from Jedi Knight, the Valley of the Jedi. When I put that together,
the Darth Bane
with
book
the Darth
and everything,
Bane books, I was like, oh my god, that's
I got reminded of I'm like Valley of the Jedi. Oh my god, it's that.
Yeah, because they didn't call it that. It was just Rusan in the Bane books. But then at the end,
but then you realize what the thought bomb was and everything, and then in Rule of Two, then it's suddenly like, Johan is trying to set up this whole big memorial to the Jedi that fought there. It was like, oh my god, that's the Valley of the Jedi.
Yeah, when I put those two together, I was seriously mind blown. It was amazing.
It was fantastic.
So Mysteries of the Sith was an expansion to Jedi Knight.
Yep.
But it did have its own disc, which is actually in my little CD tray down here, which I went through on a stream probably about a month ago. My Mysteries of the Sith disc and Jedi Knight discs are in there. So, okay, so you did
Mysteries of the Sith, and
then Dark Forces?
Yeah, Dark Forces 1. I first played it like just looking like the original version, and then I remembered, we looked at a mod for it for Saturday Night Sith, and I'm like, I'll get that HD texture mod. I'll check that out and I'll stream that.
Oh, you know what?
And Night Dive is going to be doing their own, so we have
one thing I was going to ask you about, because I am stoked for that.
But yeah, I played through that. I had a blast because again, that was kind of a game I was finally getting to play through fully.
Here, was it yours?
And I got through that.
No, it was. I was like, I have someone in my playlist to watch. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Of someone playing Dark Forges with the HD texture pack. I thought it was you. It was actually Matt Cave.
That's fine. But yeah, so after Dark Forces. Then I went to Jedi Academy, finally got through that. And then I went to Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 and had another HD texture mod to install and check out, and it looked beautiful. It really just upscaled the game and everything, which was fantastic. And they even had like the special introductory scenes for the fights and stuff like that. That was really cool. But yeah, it was. I played through that again, and now I'm 100% done on Katarn. Yeah. And before that, I'd even played through Republic Commando in between because I was like, I'm going to play through that again.
That's what I'm doing. Well, obviously not at this moment because I'm talking to you. But that's the game I've been streaming.
It's a great game.
I've really actually streamed because I've streamed games. Jump around like a little bit of this game, a little bit of that game. But the only one I've been playing consistently is Republic Commando because I never actually played through it in its entirety back in the day. I played like the first couple levels and then just fell off. So I'm actually doing like my first real full playthrough on stream of Republic Commando, and it's nice. It's aggravating me to say the least.
I got stuck at basically like this time. I was getting really frustrated with the bridge segment on Kashyyyk. But then I'm like, that's like getting like practically towards the end of the game. And I remembered as I did beat the game, I'm like, oh wait, I have beaten this before. Cause I always remember getting to Kashyyyk. I could have sworn I had stopped. Then like once I saw the final scene of the game, I'm like, oh, I did get to this.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it was still a fun experience to get through that game fresh.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones like you gotta play.
Absolutely.
Telling me,
absolutely.
Given that I'm a big Star Wars fan and I love the Star Wars games, I've played a good chunk of them. Like you gotta play Republic Commando. So yeah.
It's on that list for sure.
But yeah, given the Dark Forces remake, I'm really looking forward to. The release date just got announced today.
Yeah,
or February 24th, I believe it is.
Yeah, Melee Games was in the chat and he dropped that little bomb on me. Like, oh dang, okay.
Yeah, I saw an article for it on True Achievements, and there's at the bottom of every article is basically like a forum, so you can talk about whatever the article is discussing. And someone said something about like, I hope this leads to a remaster of Jedi Knight. I'd be like, I would kill for that. I would love that.
I mean,
I
yeah,
don't know if there's
especially to
any
get like
chance of that happening. But
well,
that
to
would be
get
great.
the opportunity for like at least upscaled FMV sequences for sure, I would love it. But for Jedi Knight and everything, but otherwise, hey, like I said, people mod. The modding community is still going strong for these old games. It's
yeah,
amazing.
if you're playing on PC, definitely.
It's amazing what people are still doing, what people are still putting out there. It's like, God.
Yeah, I've got this huge gap in my gaming career of no PC games because my that, like I said, that 12-year-old PC was never meant for gaming. The PC I had before that,
yeah,
I built
I know
in high
exactly
school,
what you mean.
and it was like top tier. So I was gaming on PC mostly around the time of Xbox and GameCube,
right,
for a few years. But then once that PC kind of aged out, I haven't really done any PC gaming since then.
Yeah.
So now that I've got this, I can actually, kind of resume some of those PC games, and play some of the newer ones. One of the things I'm most looking forward to is how a lot of the PlayStation exclusive games that I want to play have all come to PC, so I can play those now without having to get a PlayStation. Not that I've got anything against PlayStation, but now that I've got a PC that can handle them,
yeah,
I can do that.
Absolutely.
The only one, as I mentioned when I had Vanquish AZ on a couple weeks ago, is that I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but one of the PlayStation exclusives that I really want to play and has not gotten a PC release is Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, I could
really
have
wanna
sworn
play that.
it got leaked that it was supposed to, but
I hope it does.
I do too, because that's like the one game I would like to play. But at the same time, I'm not horribly pressed to do so.
My backlog
But I
is
would
huge. I
still,
got so many games to play.
and that's why I'm happy to be playing what I'm playing. But yeah, I mean that would definitely be on the list of like, yeah, I would definitely dig on that. I'm always, and that was a funny thing. Like I got like a free trial of, oh God, the Ubisoft game with all the For Honor.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, you got to play some. You could play some samurai characters.
That looked like a cool game, but I never gave it a shot.
It wasn't bad. The story was garbage. It was really just kind of. It was really, you could tell it was just kind of thrown in there for the sake of being thrown in there. It was mostly built to be like a multiplayer game,
right?
But I liked it because it did kind of get to that almost Bushido Blade-esque dangerousness of the combat. But it was very like, it got into the point where since I think at that point it kind of got like the whole like, it was starting to edge towards free to play sort of style microtransactions for cosmetics and weapons and stuff like that. And I was like, I really don't have the time for this. So I enjoyed the time that I had with it. I'm like, all right, I'm done. But otherwise, I mean, that's like where I kind of got like a bit of that samurai combat going on. So I was like, okay, I'm happy with that. But I would love, Ghost of Tsushima looked like a good one for sure.
Yeah. I'm hoping by the time I get to, because like I think I was talking about before we went on stream, but I'm super frugal, so I don't buy anything new until it's like 50% off. So those like the PlayStation exclusives that I'm looking forward to playing, like the Horizon Zero Dawn and the Spider-Man games. I'm hoping by the time I get around to them, I can get them for a good discount. Maybe by then, Ghost of Tsushima will finally be on PC. Fingers crossed.
Definitely wait for it to be the price of a sandwich. I mean,
I'm very patient for game sales. So
yeah, same
I have
no
problem waiting for them. Yeah, I've got. I do the same. Even with the Xbox games, I put them on my wish list. Wait till them to go like 70% off to finally pick them up.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta wait for that right sale to make it complete. I'm still waiting for a good enough sale for Monster Hunter World Iceborne or whatever. That DLC. I'm still waiting for that to get to a good price so my brother and I can both grab it and we can reinstall and finally play through that aspect of it.
Is that an actual no? Because that's a DLC
expansion
for
DLC expansion.
Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, that's not its own game, right?
No.
No, okay. Okay, I guess it left because I know Monster Hunter used to be on Game Pass, but it doesn't look like it's on Game Pass anymore. But that that doesn't include DLC, so
Yeah,
if that was a DLC, you would have had to have bought that anyways.
one way or another. Yep.
Yeah.
It does
but yeah.
take a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Capcom game, so just like Ubisoft games, they go on sale all the time.
It's been climbing further and further down, so I've just been waiting for it to get a little bit further more. I'm like, I'm patient. I'm a patient boy.
Yeah, I've got plenty to play in the meantime, so
100%.
So what so other than your Star Wars streams, you playing anything else?
Yeah, I speaking of picking up new games, I did pick up the Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which I kind of was like, I was really on the fence about originally, and I've been feeling kind of bad because I got the Switch like a year or two ago. And I just have not been utilizing it the way I feel like I should be. And I was worried about that. I was like, I got the feeling even if I get this thing, I'm not going to use it a whole lot. Because I'm mostly a PC gamer at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been mostly PC now for quite a while. Like even though I have my PS4, that's gonna be the last PlayStation system I ever buy. And so I was like, okay, Nintendo still. Nintendo still makes quality games.
Yeah, definitely.
Have the hate. I have a love-hate relationship with Nintendo, like so many. But
understandable.
They do. They killed my GameCube. God dang it! I love that thing. That was the first system I bought with the first job I got. I was a very sad boy when they killed that system for the Wii.
Yeah, I remember launch day. This is before, I don't know if you want to call them artificial scarcity or not, but
yeah,
I remember launch day. Before they were always sold out everywhere you went. I did have to go to a couple places, but I remember that day going to one or two places they didn't have it, and then Target they had it. And I remember bringing it home and playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and Rogue Leader on launch day. I remember that day very well.
And then I think that I'm a firm believer that Nintendo's the only one that can legitimately get away with claiming scarcity, while the other systems definitely artificially do it. But yeah, I watched Side Scrollers. Stuttering Craig was playing it, the Super Mario Wonder. I'm like, that does look like a lot of fun. I was already hearing plenty of good stuff about the game. And so I was like, all right, screw it. Go for it. And then I popped it on. I've done a couple of streams already. And I've been enjoying the heck out of it. It's definitely like that. Like people kind of claim it's kind of like a return to kind of the Super Mario World feel for the gameplay and stuff like that. And I definitely say they got that aspect down. And while also kind of adding in its own new flair with the badges. And one of my initial complaints too with the game was that all the characters that you have selectable are just cosmetic.
Okay.
So
they don't have to have any different abilities or anything.
Right. So if you're familiar with like the Super Mario, but not Super Mario Brothers 2 game that came out once upon a time ago on the Nintendo, which was supposed to be Doki Panic or whatever. So there's Super Mario Brothers 1 and Super Mario Brothers 2 that came out was basically a repurposed game, and they put in Mario characters for the main playing cast. And so they had Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Peach or Princess Toadstool
at the time.
Yeah, so they had those, and all four of them played in different ways. Mario kind of had like a super jump that he could do. Luigi had this weird, goofy, like floaty, jumpy movement to him. So like he would jump up in the air. He'd kind of have like this floaty. You see his legs kick, and then he'd slowly cast down. I forgot how Toad exactly played.
Right,
But
but I remember Peach could float.
yes, that was Peach was a good character to play because yeah, she could just float all across the screen. You're like, all right. But so with Super Mario Wonder, none of the characters have that going on. Funny thing that I recently got to though was that the badge system that they have, which kind of allows you to go into levels with like a certain perk, either like a better wall jump or like kind of like a starting with like a mushroom, so you automatically get the mushroom power up. And then one of the recent badges I got was actually the Luigi jumpy movement from Super
that you were
Mario
just talking
Brothers
about.
2. I'm like, oh, you cheeky buggers! This is what you did. You just put it in as a special like
Rather than
badge.
innate to the characters, you have to equip it.
Yeah, but the thing is, yeah, and it equips to all the characters, no matter which one you're playing as. So
Gotcha.
I'm like, okay, I see what you did there, you cheeky Nintendo. I'm still kind of annoyed, but at the same time, fine, I'll allow it because I'm having freaking fun with the game. I had to get back to it. Yeah, I'll allow it. I just wanted to really get in some good KOTOR time before I go back to playing that. So, but that's been one game, the newest game that I've been playing. Prior to that, I got through and I did it as a Rumble exclusive. I played through the System Shock remake, the System Shock 1 remake that Night Dive did.
Oh, Night Dive did that as well. I did not realize that.
They
I don't think I even knew the name Night Dive until just recently.
They did it initially as a Kickstarter, and they first did it on the Unity. They were first going to do it on the Unity engine, and what attracted me was they put out basically like a bit of the first area as a demo. I'm like,
okay,
that's awesome. You guys have so much already looking like it's built in. You're understanding to, I mean, they were basically like at the start saying like, okay, we're doing like basically like a 1-to-1. They were just basically taking the original game, but modifying the combat for modern controls. I hate to say modern, but yes, modernizing a game for because I mean, if you ever played one of the original System Shock the way it was very all keyboard controls, very janky, very kind of stiff, weird combat. So
I never played it. I've seen clips of it, and I know it's pretty well regarded, but I don't really know anything about it other than it was basically the precursor to BioShock.
Definitely more System Shock 2 than 1, but I mean both. Yeah, I mean they're in that it's System Shock 1 and 2. So yeah, they basically were the forefathers for that. But yeah, the game definitely needed needed an upgrade, and they did great. I think they did a fantastic job with it. It was basically just like a copy paste, but done up the graphics. They still kind of have like a retro look to it. So you kind of see that pixeled look here and there. I had an initial problem with what they were doing because somewhere mid-long the project, they were like, oh, we're going to be completely expanding the maps. We're going to be putting in brand new areas and doing this and doing that. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You fools. You're getting too big of an ego right now. Scale it back. You had the right idea. And so they were going
from the remaster territory or the remake territory. No,
they were going from they said it was a remake,
remaster.
To a complete remake. Like they were gonna really like change up a lot. But thankfully, like I guess somewhere along the lines they were switching from Unity over to Unreal, and I think they might have hit some. Either they had some financial woes or somebody finally came along, smacked everyone, and went, you need to get your stuff together and get this project on course because we are falling way too behind. And I think that's what kind of happened.
Before this whole Unity debacle, right?
Oh, well before. Yes, well before. Because it was like a good, like, yeah. And then like it took them like 5-6 years to finally then put out the game. and I'm still waiting. Night Dive, I like you, but I'm still waiting for some of my Kickstarter perks, which I need to probably harass you about.
Did the System Shock remake end up being on Unity, or was it on Unreal?
It was on Unreal. They had moved over to Unreal. And maybe that was possibly for the better. I mean, Unreal is an amazing engine as it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I put it aside because when I finally got access to the game, they were giving they finally put out the codes because I was a person that selected the GOG copy. I'm like, I want my DRM free non-Steam version. I want to be able to download it, have my backup copy, know that it's there on my hard drive and everything. So I'm cool. But I then had to start looking how to get the access to the demo and to the newer demos that they were putting out for the backers. And I did a stream of that as well. And I got through. I'm like, okay, you guys won me back a bit. I'm not as angry anymore at you as I was before. Because this is really freaking good. But I played through that as well recently. That was a blast. Because like I said, it was like I'd have to play through completely the original System Shock because I haven't. I've gotten far in it. I've just never beaten it. But man, do some of the quest lines and stuff get really goofy with what you have to do. And honestly, I am my hat's off to the players from back in the day that got through that original game the way it God intended.
Released version.
Yeah, the released version. Because like even though like I said, because that's where like you could follow some of the old player guides to get through the remake. And so I was doing some of that, and I was like looking because there were some points where I got stuck, and I was like, I don't know what the heck to do. So I looked up some guides here and there. I blew up the earth a couple of times, and then I did finally get, oh, okay, here we go. Then I got on the right course and was able to get through the game by the skin of my own teeth because it was getting tough towards the end. Because I definitely might have been a little underprepared, but I got through and it was well worth the experience at the end of the day. And I'm like, all right, Night Dive, I don't do the corporate shilling that much. You're getting some shilling from me. You guys are good. You did a good job here.
Yeah.
So
like I said, I hadn't really heard of Night Dive until recently, but everything that I've heard about them recently has definitely been positive.
Yeah, where they kind of came onto my radar was they did put out what they called the enhanced edition of System Shock 1, and that was great too. Like it was like they did bring in the mouse keyboard control configuration and everything, and then you could also reduce the very obstructive UI, because if you ever seen screenshots of the original game, like most of the screen is taken up by the user interface.
Oh,
so
it's very cluttered.
It's very cluttered, very early 90s or mid 90s esque sort of game where it was just like they were just trying to throw so many different ideas to see what would stick almost. But like you could reduce all that, get more of the screen opened up, so then you got more visual. And the soundtrack I think the soundtrack is really awesome. But like it definitely kind of needed that new skin to bring the horror aspect into it, because playing the original game, at least for me, I didn't find it very scary. The remake, yeah, I definitely had some moments, and I put them out as like little shorts of me just screaming like a girl, going, "Oh my god! Oh my god!" Plenty of those sort of moments, for sure. And so, I'm looking to forward to them also put it, or at least I think they already did. They put out an enhanced edition of System Shock 2 that I'm gonna have to check out as well. Another fantastic game. That also just like killer soundtrack, fantastic.
Yeah,
like, that's definitely
I've ever heard. Not that I've heard a lot about either System Shock, but every time I hear it talked about, it's always in a positive light.
Yeah, and System Shock 2 was definitely it had some scary as hell moments where I just like I remember first time playing, I'm like just huddled in a corner going, I don't want to go back out there. I don't want to go back out there. Meanwhile, you just have these guys lurking in the dark, flickering light hallways. Run, hurry,
That's
and then
almost exactly like
psychotic little psionic beam throwing monkeys coming at you, and it's like I don't want any more of this.
the huddling in the corner in the fetal position basically describes like the 5 to 10 minutes of Alien Isolation I played.
Right, exactly.
Trying to get a Game Pass quest completed.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so one thing I was wondering is I don't think it will, or I don't think it had, just based on what you're saying, but it didn't have like the Master Chief Collection where you can jump back and forth between the old graphics and the new graphics. Right?
No, not with the System Shock remake. They did not have that as a feature
from the original.
I mean, hang on, I'm trying to remember now if I could or not, but I don't think so. And I don't think it was really necessary. Dang it! Now
I think it's always a cool thing to have, even though I'm never going to play it in the old graphics. But it's a cool thing to have. Sure.
But I mean, I think it might have been if they didn't, because I'd have to load back into the game and find out for sure. But if they didn't, it's just kind of called. Well, you have the enhanced edition of System Shock that you can pick up and play, so you could play either or. But I want to. Then there's a part of me that wants to say they did have that in the game, but I'm not 100%. I'm sorry.
No worries. What's up, Jacob Ironside?
Hello, sir.
You're probably Jacob.
Yeah, I've seen Jacob Ironside, right?
Although I don't, at least not in the last few streams I've seen him in of mine. I haven't seen him drop any dad jokes like he does on Space. So what's wrong with the monkeys shooting energy beams? Nothing.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just horrifying.
And Kay is saying that sounds like the System Shock remake is worth it.
I give it my endorsement. Yes, I found it very enjoyable. The only thing they really did was like they added a little more to the intro, but that was it. It was just kind of like more showing just a little more of kind of what was going on, but otherwise, it's still very much the original System Shock.
Okay. So, going back to the Mario thing, because basically from everything I'm hearing from the internet circles is that everyone's like raving about Wonder.
It's good, yeah.
The only actual thing I've watched of Wonder, because I didn't catch any of Craig's stream, but I was there a couple. Was it?
Yeah, I'd only like watched a little bit. I had to go to work, and I'm like, okay, I've watched what I needed to. I'm not going to do any more. I'll grab the game, and I'll then get to play it for myself.
I think it was. I'm trying to think what night it was. I think it was Saturday night. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Saturday night because I had James on open mic on not open mic on party chat on Saturday morning, and Saturday night him and Kay did this thing where because they both Wonder and the new Sonic game, and they kept switching back and forth. So that's the only thing I've actually seen of Wonder is when they were playing it, and they were not as excited.
She's not
about
a fan.
It as
she's not a fan of the chat.
Most of the internet, from what I hear. So yeah, here we go, right here. Mario Wonder isn't that great. So
I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying I've been enjoying it. Is it the best Mario? No, I'm still going to be on the boat of Super Mario World. It's going to be my personal favorite between that, the original, and Super Mario Brothers 3. So, but I'm always
the only ones I've actually played. Because I had Super Mario, because I'm not big on the Mario franchise, but I had Super Mario World because that was the first game I ever owned because it came packed in with the SNES that I got for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I also got the Super Mario All-Stars, which was 1, 2, 3, and I'm pretty sure it had a lot of levels.
The one time I'm not big on a remaster was that package deal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I think I didn't like the look. I didn't like the sprite upgrades. I preferred the original aesthetic of the original Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, on the NES, I preferred the original look of Mario Brothers 1 and 3 much more. and in 2,
Okay.
but I mean 1 and 3 especially, just because like 1 was the first for me. I got it. So I got it as either, I don't know if I was like 4 or 5. I got it for, again, I don't know if it was like for a Christmas or for birthday. I forget which. That's why it's just kind of fuzzy.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it was one of the package deals of, you got of course Super Mario Brothers with Duck Hunt and Track and Field.
Oh, I played both those, but I didn't own them because I never owned an NES, but I played them.
Yeah, so like it came with a big old track
Big
pad.
old mat.
Yeah, and of course, like we only ran occasionally, but half the time too, we'd stop and just keep slapping the pad and trying to hit the AB really quick. Yeah, just try and hit it as fast as possible. But that was like my introduction to a lot more of that stuff, of playing Super Mario Brothers, the original, and of course 3 eventually comes along. It's like, holy crud. And again, it's just like, there's just something about the aesthetics for those older games that I really love. And the funny thing was too, I'd never beaten the original Super Mario Brothers. I haven't beaten 3, but I always loved rebooting them back up and playing for them a bit and having a good time and being like, I'm done with that. I'm good.
That's a good question.
And only recent
question, but I'm pretty sure I beat all of them on Super Mario All-Stars, but I'd have to go back and look at the because I'm getting the 3 of them mixed up because I haven't played them since I was a kid. But yeah. I'm pretty sure I beat them all, but I have to go back and watch some videos of the last levels of each and see if I remember them.
Yeah, and only recently, it was like a couple of days ago, since I've been off for a while, I booted up Super Mario Brothers, the first game, and I just kind of sat there and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep playing. Yeah, I kind of utilized the Switch's rewind function here or there.
Oh, I didn't know it had that. Nice.
Yeah, but then yeah, I finally beat Super Mario Brothers 1. I was like, all right, I'm finally putting that under my belt.
30 some years later.
Well, I beat the Super Mario Land on Game Boy. I've of course beaten Super Mario World. It was just, for some reason, like that original game, I just never cared to. Well, I just never cared to go all the way through. Okay. So I just was like I said, I would just love to reboot it up, get that nostalgic feeling of these were the days. Yeah. Play it for a little bit, like either do the whole jumping through the different warps, or playing just like actually completing each level as intended. But then I just kind of stopped and be like, okay, I got my fill. But yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah, Static was saying that the Track and Field game, and
yeah, it was cool. Really like cool. I've said, I'm probably not the first one that ever said this, of course, but it's just like Nintendo is just the king of gimmicks. Like they know how to. They've known how to for a long. They've had their accessories. They've had they've always been doing something in some form to kind of add some extra interactivity with gaming. While it's been either a positive or a failure, hey, they've given it a shot. And yeah, the Track and Field thing was fun. Especially when you actually utilized it like a running pad. It's like, okay, this is how it gets you into the game a little more. And of course, Duck Hunt, you got the little light gun, which I'm sure came from the arcades and all that, but that was still cool for home console.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you didn't really have it. So just little stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, they're probably the least risk adverse. They're definitely the ones that are going to go out on a limb and be the most innovative and try something new
in different avenues,
Microsoft for sure. PlayStation. So definitely got to give them that.
Oh yeah, I give credit where credit's due, despite my annoyances with them at times.
What's up, Angry Canadian? Dropping in to say hello. Wrong one. That's one. Hey, what's up? Dropping in to say what's up. Glad you could join us while we're talking all sorts of stuff. We were talking Star Wars games, and we talked System Shock, and
we're all over the spectrum,
which is the whole point of open mic. Go wherever the conversation takes us, as long as it's about video games. So, let's see what he's saying. You trying to trigger me with the Mario Wonder comic? No, she's not a big fan. For events for November while listening to these two lovely lads. Excellent.
Aww.
Thank you. Let's see here. I was going to say, oh yeah, about Mario.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is, but when I was talking about, I think I beat them all.
Right.
I don't even know if it is the last level, but I think it is. And the one that's popping into my mind, at the most forefront, is the level where there's tons of bullet bills and there's all these wooden floating in the air ships, but they're not
I
in
want to
water.
say that's Mario 3. Yeah.
Is that the last level?
That's kind of what goes on in the last levels is like you are. I mean, they definitely made it look like hell for world 8. But yeah, like there's a lot of like the water. There's a few levels with the water, and then like the kind of big tank looking things driving by, or they'd be kind of planks of wood floating in the air and stuff like that. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't remember which one that is, or even if that is the last level. But that
I
when
want to
thinking
say
about the
that's
last
it.
level
Yeah.
of one of the original Mario's, that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure I've still got.
I don't think anything like that happens in Mario 2. And I know it doesn't happen in Mario 1 because I just beat that recently.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I still have my Super Mario All-Stars SNES cartridge, but like my Wii, I don't have a TV that my SNES connects to. So if I wanted to hook it up and play
the problem with a lot of modern tech. Yeah, it makes it real difficult to hook up that old stuff.
The composite video and audio cables.
Yep.
So I'm sure getting the adapter, whatever, wouldn't be too difficult, but I would have to go out of my
Yeah,
way
you should be able to find that, no problem.
Because especially most of the games from that era that I care about have been added to more modern consoles. Like one of my big things, I was just replying to someone on Twitter just earlier today. Was about Mega Man, because Mega Man is one of my favorite franchises, and basically all of the Mega Man games are on modern consoles. So even though
pretty much
I can't hook up my SNES and play Mega Man X3 is my favorite, I can still play it via the X Legacy Collection on my Xbox.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
which is my favorite. Because my very first stream on my channel was me and DJ Axis and Gino95 talking about Mega Man for 2 hours.
All right.
The X trilogy on SNES, X1, 2, and 3 are my favorite little group of games in the Mega Man franchise. And those are my favorite SNES games as well. And out of those three, X3 is my favorite.
Yeah, Mega Man always threw me through a loop because I remember, I think at the X series was kind of my first introduction to Mega Man. But I knew of the original.
Mega Man X was
on the Super Nintendo. And I knew of the original Mega Mans, but then I'm like, he's got this new look. At the time, I think there was the cartoon.
Yes,
and they introduced the X Mega Man. I'm like, but where does he fit in timeline wise? So it always confused the ever loving hell out of me as to what was supposed to be going on. I'm like, so where does X come into all this?
We talked about the different timelines in the cartoon, and there was an episode that I think Gino was telling us about it, where they do kind of connect the two because X comes from the future to meet up with original Mega Man, because they are two different characters.
Yeah, and I remember talking to somebody too once upon a time about it, like how there was supposed to be certain plans to even have X go rogue or evil or something like that, and
yeah, that's some of the plot lines of more so Zero, because Zero was
Zero, but like it was the actual plans for like X to do it, to like I think kind of throw kind of
that actually
subvert your expectations sort of thing, but
in one of the Mega Man Zero games, because you play as Zero, and I don't remember which one it was, but I remember the final boss of the game in one of the Zero games was X.
Okay.
Sorry if I just spoiled that for anyone.
Well, I thought because Zero was he kind of like an anti-hero type too?
Yeah, he started out
sort of character.
I'm pretty sure he was built either by Wily or
another one of those situations
or something, and then he turned good.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Like the Sigma guy came in. I'm like, well, where the hell's Wily? Like,
But yeah,
what's all this going on?
I loved it more. I never really followed like the lore of it all that much, but I loved it more so for the gameplay because
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. It was
much faster paced than Mario.
It
and
was
has cool guns, or
that.
weapons.
Yeah, the different like adaptive battle, different robot powers you could get and everything was cool.
Yeah,
it's just like I was just always just I just get stuck sometimes in that whole aspect of, well, what's the story? What's going on? No, I wasn't doing a great deal.
Nonsensical.
A little. Sometimes they can be, even though I myself wasn't doing a great job of paying attention. I was just still kind of like, huh, well, what's going on? I'm still playing. I'm still having fun. I was just like kind of like the back of my head is like, what is all this?
And I think Kay was in there for that Mega Man stream as well, or maybe watched it later on. But she is a big fan of the Battle Network series of games.
Oh yeah,
I've only played one of them, but I did really like it because it is an RPG, but it is
turn-based RPG, if I recall, too.
Sort of,
kind of like a tactics RPG sort of game.
Kind of, yeah. So when you're in combat, it is real time. You can move around and dodge attacks and stuff, but you can also
it's been a while.
Pause it, which I think she was saying that she played through one of the games, or maybe Gino was. One of them were saying that they didn't even know this until like after they beat the game, because at the you have like a binder almost of like they're called chips, but essentially they're almost like binders of like trading card game,
right?
Where you could summon whatever monster and has whatever special ability, but you load up your folder. There's lots of chips in the game. You can only hold like 40 in your binder or whatever, and then at the beginning of each fight you pick, I think, up to 5 at a time, and they each do different things, and they're more powerful than your basic attacks. And then at the top there's a little bar that fills up. Takes, I don't know, 10-15 seconds to fill up, and then when you do, you can hit one of the shoulder buttons and it'll pause the combat, and you can pick the next set of chips you want to use. And somebody, I want to say it was Gino, didn't know that that bar fills up and then you can select it again mid combat. He thought you select those chips at the beginning of the battle and that's all you have for the whole battle. Didn't realize until after the end of the game that no, you can select new chips in the middle of battle. So, but it pauses when you do that, so you can kind of figure out what chips you want to use. And
okay.
Cool things. I don't know, because the only one that I played was Battle Network 3, so I don't know if Battle Network 1 and 2 had this, but they had these basically chip combos where certain chips, if you line them up in a certain order, when you use it, instead of using one and then waiting and then using 2, because you can choose when you use it. But instead, if you have them lined up in a certain order, when you say use it, it uses all 3 and it does some sort of like crazy attack. Those were really awesome. And I don't know if those were in 1 or 2, but those were really sweet. But I really
it's been a long time since I played through Battle Network 1. I know I played through a bit of 1, but I know I didn't beat it or anything like that. I just played it for a time because it was on an emulator. I was playing it.
Okay.
I eventually just kind of lost. I hate to say interest. It wasn't interesting. It was just kind of like I just got
fell by the wayside.
Yeah, just kind of fell by the wayside. Got distracted by some other game that probably came along. You're like, ooh, shiny.
Yeah, understandable. And Kay is saying that she doesn't think that those combos were in the later game or in the earlier game. That was something they were added later on. But I did like Battle Network, but I don't think it's better than the
it was an interesting change of pace for Mega Man.
But one thing, and this was one thing I went on a little bit of a rant on that stream, is that I've got every Mega Man game, basically mainline Mega Man game. I can't even say mainline, but almost all, not like the super niche games, but I've got basically all the mainline ones because there's been collections of all of them, except Battle Network has.
Oh, really?
It has a collection which just came out earlier this year, but my thing that's I'm pissed about is the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is not on Xbox when all the other collections are.
Oh, no.
I'm an Xbox guy. So I've got Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2. I've got X Legacy Collection 1 and 2. I've got the Mega Man Zero Legacy Collection. I've got Mega Man 11, although I haven't played it yet. But if I want to play the Battle Network Legacy Collection, I got to play it on a different platform. It's like, explain to me why it's on Switch and PlayStation, and I'd have to check. I don't know if it's on Steam or not, but it's not on Xbox, and that's the one I wanted on because I'm an achievement hunter.
Right.
I
don't know what would I don't know what would cause that. That's so bizarre that that they would, because that's Capcom's baby,
That's
but
my
at the same time
Capcom franchise is Mega
but
Man.
at the same time, does that like still fall under with Nintendo in some way? I mean,
oh, and Kay is saying that it is also on Steam. So if I was gonna play it, it'd probably be on Steam.
oh, okay, there you go.
But I want my.
This
Xbox
is so bizarre that
this
is so bizarre that Xbox would get left out because like I'm like,
all
okay, so who's
are on all the platforms except this one is not on Xbox.
It just seems so bizarre, yeah. Like, why is that one like I said, that's why I'm like, but if it's Nintendo's doing, that seems really weird because it's like as of late, Nintendo and Microsoft have been weirdly working together on certain stuff. So
yeah, I mean, there's even some Xbox games with Xbox achievements on Nintendo Switch. There are not many of them, but there are a few.
Right. Because I know that they've been like they worked on like crossplay for some games. And they were like the only ones too.
It's only definitely becoming a much bigger thing.
Yeah, and I know like for a while Sony was being real sticklers about it. They weren't working with anyone.
They were like, no, you can't have crossplay. I think one of the big things that kind of brought that to light, I think, was Rocket League, because Xbox and Nintendo were like, yeah, you can crossplay on us, and then PlayStation was like, nope, can't do it with us. Everyone's like, come on, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. Sony's very weird.
Yeah, I've looked for it and I didn't find anything on why the Battle Network Collection isn't on Xbox, but I'm going to see if I can find anything because it's been 6 months.
Kind of a curiosity there.
I'm going to try to write myself a reminder. Battle Network not on Xbox. I'll do that later.
Yeah, found the Steam thing of Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection here.
Oh
yeah, I remember playing this.
Apparently, I just typed a very broken English search just for a reminder for me later, but it came up right away with a Reddit post, and it says it was a business decision.
Oh,
garbage. So, whose business decision was it? Was it Capcom? Was it Nintendo?
Nintendo, yeah.
I guess the one thing I could see without really looking into it that would make it doesn't even make sense to me, because they're basically just there's money being left on the table and they're like, nah, we don't want it. Is that both Capcom and Nintendo are Japanese, and Microsoft is US,
US based, yeah.
Screw USA, we're keeping it Japan only, because also Sony also being a Japanese company as well.
Former Japanese company. They moved their headquarters to California.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I would say they were formally a Japanese company until they did that nonsense. So,
good. Yeah, but I mean, Steam is a U.S. company, so why is it on Steam then? If that's
I don't know, it is I mean, there's always some goofy stuff that occurs between these developers and whatnot. Like I remember for a good long time. After I think once they got to Nintendo 64, at the time Squaresoft had stopped dealing with Nintendo altogether, because I think to them the Nintendo 64 wasn't powerful enough or wasn't doing what they needed it to, and they were going off towards Sony and another company.
Yeah, because
or Final Fantasy VII
were all Super Nintendo, and then they were on PlayStation, and
then they switched over to PlayStation 100%, and they were not dealing with Nintendo for the longest time, and made me kind of sad, because Super Mario RPG was like one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo at the time. It was that's one thing I am kind of looking forward to, is the Switch port.
I was just gonna ask you about that because that's like his favorite game. I
I
don't know if
kept
it's
hearing
his favorite game of all
Gino. I'm
time,
like, I
but
kept hearing that name. Like, hey, I know that name.
he uses Gino as his avatar. So if it's not his most favorite game of all time, I know it's definitely up there. And when I got announced,
Right.
I think the announcement for the remaster was like the day we had our Mega Man stream. So he was like stoked for it. So
Yeah, and it was like,
that's coming soon.
yeah, it was like,
November
yeah,
or
I want to say
something?
so. And it was funny too because like, yeah, they had like Mario Kart and everything, but it was like I felt like that was such a change up for the Super Mario formula to a degree. Like it was really giving it a big story, a whole new game mechanic. Like, yeah, you kind of the kart racers, but like there's still like a battle element and everything to it.
November
But to
17th, so just about a month away, a little
oh
under.
wow, cool. But yeah, to me like Mario RPG just felt so different
That was
for what I
probably
was
I didn't
already
own it,
used to at
but
the
I
time.
played it over at a friend's. That was probably
Right.
the very first RPG I ever actually played a good
Mm.
chunk of.
And that the specialty of that, while turn based, also had the timing mechanics that you could defend from certain attacks and stuff like that. So if you had the timing down just right, just
I
before
don't
they
remember
hit you, you could hit like A or B or something, and then like you'd possibly get a defensive move to then block or at least take a little less damage that you would have otherwise. So, and it also help boost attacks for certain attacks that you're doing as well. So
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna touch on that again. And yeah, so K is basically
probably the whole business decision.
corroborating what I found as well as business decision and RPG comes out November 17th.
Yeah, sweet.
And it is a day one pickup for her.
For
Super
K.
high.
Okay.
So
my one beef was I heard the soundtrack that they are using in the trailer for it, and I was not too big on the remix. I was not too big on the remix songs personally. But otherwise the rest of it looked great.
That's kind of what I've been hearing from some of the diehards is that the music is kind of their biggest gripe.
Yeah.
But I know everyone's like,
otherwise it looks fantastic. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm practically sold. It's just, I was just hoping that I'm like, I hope that's just for the trailer.
Yeah. So, what I was just going to say a second ago when you were talking about how they had like, if you time it right, you can hit a button or whatever and take less damage. And then when you're attacking, if you time it right, you can hit whatever and do more damage. Because I played, like I said, I didn't have Super Mario RPG, but I did play it over to friends a decent enough amount, but not a huge amount. I never played through like the whole game.
Right.
It would have been when it's new. So, it's a faint memory in my mind.
From,
30 years ago or whatever. But earlier when I was talking about an RPG, I didn't mention the game that I was talking about, but RPG that is turn-based that I did enjoy. And we talked about it on, I think the first party chat where James and Kay were on was the somewhat recent South Park RPGs.
Oh yeah.
Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole. I actually really enjoyed those a lot, and I've played the first one a bunch of times because there's a ton of missable achievements.
There
in order
is,
to get 100%, I had to go
you
back.
You have to replay that
the
one,
entire thing again a couple times because I got to the very end. And you don't find out whether you screwed up or not until the very end. It's too late to go back, which I was not happy about.
I mean, it's one way to encourage replayability. At the same time, it's like, oh, come on, guys, work with me here.
The second one wasn't as bad about it.
No, it wasn't.
That particular thing. But I'm pretty sure they both use that mechanic where you can hit A when you're taking damage, and if you time
the first
game,
the first game, yes. Second game, no.
Okay.
The second game was much more. The second game was much more turn-based with the and it kind of had the whole like kind of tactics-y map setup where you moved around the way you did. And so like that was a really funny thing. Like I remember playing through one time all of Stick of Truth and getting really used to that mechanic, and then getting to 2 and being like, wait, I can't do that thing anymore.
That's right.
No.
Okay. Yeah, because
So
I played the first one. I probably played it like 4 times now, but I've only played the second one once, so I'm not as familiar with it. But yeah, that's right. It was in the first one, but not in the second one. But
yeah,
they probably got that from Super Mario RPG because it sounds like
possibly
it's
is
exactly
very
the same
possible.
implementation. But yeah, I still have to go back and do Fractured But Whole one more time because the only thing I didn't get was the achievement for beating on the hardest difficulty. So I got to go back and do that. And it's funny how they basically poke fun at stuff because the difficulties in that game is your skin color. So
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
hardest
There's
difficulty, your character is black, which is really funny.
yeah, that's where I like. I really do like Fractured But Whole with a lot of the gameplay mechanics and stuff like that. There's just some of the other stuff that yes, where I get a little kind of like I don't know if this is still satire or they're being legit and all that sort of thing. So I'm just like, I like yeah, but it's the love hate. It's basically
Yeah.
like I don't know if you know the YouTuber Ross Scott. He has a channel, Accursed Farms, and for his game reviews show that he calls Game Dungeon, he sometimes has ratings at the end of the episodes, and one of them has been love hate. So it's just kind of like
Oh,
you just
that's
have
one
that.
of his
That's like
ratings.
one of his ratings for like he just calls them like basically like the award, the end of the episode awards. So this is the award. So like he has one like for on a limited lifespan. So for like games that are games as a service. Or
Okay.
games that are like online connectivity. It's like this one has a limited lifespan, guys. And then
Sounds
yeah,
kinda
then
like, Jeremy John's, how he does his movie reviews is like T minus 1 day. I already forgot or better when drunk or,
okay,
know,
okay.
he
Yeah,
doesn't
and then
rate them with numbers. He uses those in order to rate his movie. It
gotcha.
sounds like
Okay.
something similar.
Who knows where he got that? It might have been something like that. Yeah, but like he has love hate as one of his ratings. It's just like yeah, it's like there's a point where it's like I just don't know what I'm supposed to feel with this one. Like there's really good aspects to it, and there's really, to me, some questionable aspects to it. It's like I'm just not sure what you guys are trying to tell me here. But still,
And
very fun games. I enjoyed the hell out of them.
yeah, I did too, and the comedy was pretty great. And Canadian is saying that Paper Mario had that too with the pressing A thing, and Kay is saying that basically South Park basically ripped it off from Paper Mario, which I wouldn't be surprised at
I
all.
couldn't get into Paper Mario. Like to me, I did not like the style. I didn't like the style of it, and I avoided it because I was like, "This is not Mario RPG. I don't like the look of it. I'm not playing you. Go away now."
I know a lot of people love Paper Mario, and
I know.
Probably
I feel like
a
the
good
odd man
chunk of
out.
the Super Mario RPG lovers because it's the closest thing they've gotten to a sequel.
I think yeah, and I think that's where I was like, you know what? I'm bitter. I'm angry. I don't care anymore. I get it. Square and Nintendo went their separate ways. Fine. I'm done with a Mario style RPG.
Yeah. Kay is saying that Thousand Year Door is probably one of the best games she's ever played, and Canadians saying that it's one of those top 5 GameCube games. So right there,
you're both Canadians. I can't take your word for anything.
Technically, Angry Canadian is not actually Canadian.
Well, why do you call yourself Angry Canadian? That's false advertising.
You can watch the open mic that he was on. He talks about that.
Okay.
Because I had him on for open mic, and we talked about that for a little bit. But Kay is saying that with the Super Mario RPG remaster, you can actually switch between the original and the new music. So
okay, so I'll basically do what I I'll basically do what I did with the Resident Evil 4 remake and just turn on the original score. Or Resident Evil 2.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't really like that remake, but that's a whole other can of worms.
Okay. Oh, I think I'm not into Resident Evil either, but I've heard that was a pretty well.
Resident Evil 2 is the original. Remake. The original for me is one of my favorites for sure. It was one of my first. It was one of the first. Is the first one I played. First one I ever played on the first game I ever played on a PlayStation. I loved Resident Evil 2. It was great. Resident Evil Remake, I did not like for the aspects of what they did to the story. So in the original Resident Evil 2, they had which was just basically determined as the A and B stories for both characters. So like
Oh, that's the one you switch
they'd
between the
each
two.
start out in different areas depending on which version you picked.
Oh, okay. I remember
And
watching a video, and it was like about games that make it harder on yourself without you realizing, because
yeah,
essentially you're picking
and
your difficulty by which character you're picking, because one is way more harder than the other.
right. And so like then like the story B for the characters, that's where you got introduced to Mr. X. And that's where he was kind of that extra new antagonist to the game to like spice things up a little bit, have a new challenge throughout it. The Resident Evil 2 remake, so I'll say that they did right, which was the gameplay I thought was very well polished. And of course, then they got much more of the spooky atmosphere going on because also it's third person instead of what they call like the tank controls for the
Right.
original games. But you got more of that
the stationary camera.
Right. Exactly. So it had that better aspect of like being third person and all that, much more like Resident Evil 4. But my problem with it was, and to me, it like killed replayability, was that like they just combined the A/B storylines.
Oh,
So it just became a hodgepodge of both of those storylines going on. And to me, I just felt like it just kind of lost all of its effect. And then also having no matter what, both game having the game storyline where you're constantly being chased by Mr. X regardless, to me kind of took away from the aspect of also being able to explore the police station and getting to kind of look around and do all the stuff that you originally did in the original version of the game.
So is he not constantly stalking you in the original?
No. So if you're doing story A, no, he's not a threat introduced. Story B, like I said, is where he gets introduced as a threat for the characters, depending on which one, if you're Leon or Claire. But then they'll have more like different segments to which he just is suddenly like boom, comes crashing through a wall or something, and there he is, ready to come stalking you. And yeah, they made him much more of like this kind of like unstoppable freight train almost in the remake. But having him almost constantly there, to me, kind of it just rubbed me the wrong way, and I didn't like the combination of those storylines together. Like I said, I felt it took away from the replayability, and and just the uniqueness of both storylines, because when you had those storylines, like they were very separate from each other. This time it is really like they intermingled both characters almost too well together instead of feeling like they had their own diverging storylines. While in the original, Claire and Leon did have moments where they kind of crossed paths, it wasn't as so as they did in the remake for me. So I like I said, great gameplay, great atmosphere, but not to the storyline is where it completely lost me, personally.
That makes sense.
And I understand it's a remake, it's not a remaster, but I'm like, okay, sorry, I'm a bit of a purist sometimes, where it's like, okay, I need that story.
I totally get that.
The way it was. So otherwise, like I said, it did a lot of things right, and yeah, it did allow you to select the original gameplay score. I love that score to death. I think it's another one of those just amazing, well developed for the atmosphere, for the different places that you go through. The soundtrack is just fantastic.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. Both creepy and kind of comfy in a weird way.
Yeah, I still don't have any interest in playing them, but
I get that. Like I said, two remake is definitely more scary than the original PlayStation version. Like there's kind of moments where like, oh shit, I'm getting attacked by the random zombies, but like it's not quite that same fear factor, I guess you could say, as the remake gets into. So
Yeah, because at any moment, Mr. X could just come busted through the
yeah,
wall.
come
You're like, oh my
busting through.
god!
He's like the Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah, come
Yeah,
busting
that's
through
what I
the
was
wall,
just
but
saying a minute
starts
ago.
chasing you down, ready to clobber you. I'm like, dude, go away.
So, but yeah, Kay was saying that Mario RPG or Paper Mario is basically the spiritual successor.
You're right. Yeah.
RPG. And Canadian was saying that you're not alone.
Yay.
Paper Mario and Nerdporial wasn't a huge fan of it as well, which I don't know because when I had him on, we talked about Zelda more than Mario. So
I'll
have to take your word for it. Canadian's in his chat a lot more than I am now, so
okay.
I'll take his word for it. Yeah. Kay's giving him crap for saying false advertising, saying he's angry Canadian. He's not actually Canadian. Let's see. More paper.
Yeah, I see you static calling me a hipster. I don't care. Call me whatever you want.
Fractured totally.
I just have an appreciation
before it was popular.
I just have appreciation for the classics. That's all.
Do you also listen to your music on vinyl?
No, I don't get that at all. I don't understand that aspect of it. I'm like, how does vinyl of all freaking things make a return? Next, you're going to tell me Betamax, VHS, and all the cassettes are going to suddenly make a weird, bizarre return.
DVD.
And then those two. Next thing you're going to tell me, those are going to suddenly make a bizarre comeback.
Yeah, it's like, are 8 tracks going to make it come back? Like, why?
Right?
Vinyl?
Jeez. so freaking weird. Oh man.
But Kay is saying Fractured is our
hipster. Yeah. I know what you mean, Kay.
What's what movie was that? Something recently. It's like it's I saw it because my kids like the movie The Bad Guys. It's a cute movie. But
I've heard of the books and stuff, and yeah, I think I've seen the movies floating around.
Because they're all anthropomorphic animals.
Right.
It's animated or CG, but one of the Mr. Snake is Grumpy Pants, but he's our Mr. Grumpy Pants.
Yeah. I'm already I'm in my late 30s, and I'm already the grumpy old man on the porch. Get off my lawn!
Yeah, mid 30s. We're already yelling at Cloud.
Exactly. I'm the guy yelling at Cloud, and that's what I've said to people. Like, that's what I feel like sometimes. My buddy Hitman and I, we're just basically two guys shouting at a brick wall, but we enjoy doing it, so we keep it on.
Nice. So, yeah, I haven't. I briefly mentioned it on Party Chat on Saturday because we normally start out and give like the first quarter to a third of the show talking about what we've been playing lately, but we had a lot of topics to get through, so we kind of just buzzed right through that. So I didn't really talk about it because I had a lot of great Halloween themed topics to discuss, and we're usually pretty short on time. But to get into a little bit more about what I've been playing lately.
Yeah,
I haven't really been playing one game in particular, although I do normally kind of stick to one game until I'm done with it, and then I move on to the next for the most part, even though I have a couple of other games usually in my quick resume to jump to it.
I try to stick to that too. It's tough sometimes.
Because like the one thing that I've really been playing consistently, and I'm still not done with it, I've fallen off this month, but I started it in July. But I didn't actually get to really playing it until September, was Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I've beaten the storyline and I've started the DLC, but I've only played like the first 20 minutes of the DLC. I need to go back and finish it because I want to get to completion. But I have not played
an Assassin's Creed game to completion. I don't think ever. Like I've started a lot of
collecting in a lot of them.
Yeah,
so I've started a completionist. That would make sense.
I've started a lot of them. I think definitely the one that I liked most, and I think I got the furthest in, was Black Flag.
Okay,
that was mainly because I liked the pirate ship aspect and all that.
Favorite.
And then and then the common theme was like when you're doing the Assassin's Creed stuff, you're like, why am I doing this? I want to go back to my pirate ship and messing up people on the seas. Give me that back. But like at the same
Yeah.
time, like I like the combat style of Assassin's Creed, so I thought it worked pretty well. But it's just like when you're doing like the tailing missions and stuff like that, is just like, oh, put me to sleep, please.
Yeah, I know. Like Static is saying that Assassin's Creed is boring, which I
Yeah,
totally get.
it can be.
I can't fault you for that. But the one thing that's I'm kind of upset about is Syndicate. I hit a lot of bugged achievements, so even though I've completed them, they haven't unlocked for me, and I gotta
Oh no!
I have to go back and I have to do a good chunk of the game again in order to get it because I am a completionist as well.
Ooh, dude, that's
so I'm not
dirty.
totally excited about that. But one thing that I mentioned, I've talked about I haven't talked about Syndicate a lot, but I have mentioned it a bunch of times just because it's taken me basically half the year to get through, or a quarter, I should say. One thing that they added that was really cool is basically the grappling hook from Batman, so you can really easily scale buildings.
Oh, okay.
Now, which is a huge
Like,
game changer for the Assassin's Creed games.
I thought they started with a really cool concept, like this whole idea that you're going back through a person's genealogy and going to distant relatives of the past and reliving certain aspects of it and all that sort of thing. I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah, real cool concept.
But and then I learned, like, once I did kind of fall out of the series, and then I learned, oh, the main guy dies at some point, and it's no longer actually him.
Yeah, that was the end of 3.
And yeah, and so I was just kind of like, all right.
And a lot of people fell off at that point too.
Yeah,
but then Black Flag ended up being
Black Flag kind of revitalized it for.
But the modern day storyline since then is at least I've played the newer ones where they turn into big RPGs. But since 3 ended and through Syndicate, which is the last one before it got rebooted, the modern day story has gone nowhere and done nothing.
Well, they got really cartoony with it. Like they just got really outlandish with some of the storylines. Like I think like the I want to say the Viking one and
that's the most recent one. Well, up until a couple weeks ago when Mirage came out, Valhalla was the most recent one.
And what was the one before that was the one like in Egypt?
So Syndicate's the last one before it rebooted. When it rebooted,
they rebooted.
Yeah, so Origins was the first one after they rebooted, and that's the one in Egypt, and that's when it became more of a big RPG. Then there was Odyssey, which was the Spartan one, and then Valhalla was the third one. And then with the most recent one, which came out a couple weeks ago, Mirage, has basically gone back to form, and it plays very much like the original Assassin's Creed, where you're finding out information, stalking your prey,
right,
and go and assassinating, and it's very much more contained than this giant, massive, sprawling world that Valhalla was, which is like a 200+ hour completion, and Mirage is like a 30-hour completion.
That's quite the difference there.
Canadian saying that he really liked Odyssey. I'm really looking forward to playing Odyssey and Origins. Not so much Valhalla, but I'm sure I'll probably enjoy it. But I'm definitely looking forward to those two. And
I don't know, without that connection to the like the main guy from the original games, is just, like I said, it feels kind of weird because, like I said, that was kind of the interesting aspect to it, that you were going through past lives effectively, or the family members of the past, and it's just like you kind of lose that connection, and it's like, okay, so but where are we supposed to go from there?
Yeah, where are we going with this?
Yeah, so
definitely understandable.
Like that's where I think it's like, all right, well, maybe just create a brand new IP or something, I guess that's the thing. That's why they keep having different names instead of numbers. That it's all a bunch of spin-offs effectively, right? So from the original 3,
there's been a main storyline. There have been a couple of spin-offs, like there was a couple like Windows Phone games. There was the PSP one that got released on the Xbox Live Arcade.
We don't count mobile games. Mobile games are not real games.
Are Switch games mobile games? Are they not real games?
Yes, they're more real games. They still connect to the TV.
Yeah, if you're talking about like mobile games, like on your phone, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, mobile game. When I say mobile games, that's referring to the phone.
Yeah, I figured so. But the reason why I've been jumping around and I haven't gotten back to finishing off Syndicate yet is because of the I did briefly mention on Saturday is the trick or treat event that's going on True Achievements right now, because they do fun community events every once in a while. So right now, you can pick between a trick or a treat. And then when you complete one, you can pick again. And if you pick a treat, it gives you a list of 10 achievements from games that you've played that you haven't unlocked yet. And you just got to earn one of them. And then you can pick trick or treat again. And if you pick treat, it's like you need to get 2 or 3 achievements that are like the one I'm working on right now is you need to get 100 gamer score in, what is it? Action RPG. 100 gamer score in role-playing or action horror games, and then I can pick another one. So I've been jumping around to a bunch of different games. The only thing that I've kind of been sticking to, it's a really short game anyways, but it's leaving Game Pass at the end of the month, is Kill It With Fire, and it's this funny cartoonish game where you're killing spiders, and you get like throwing stars and flamethrowers and RPGs and stuff. So
that's cool.
It's a goofy game. It's only like a 5-hour completion or whatever, but it's kind of funny. Yeah, so that's basically what and always perpetually in my quick resume is one of the games I play and talk about a lot is Subnautica. So I started playing that again. I'm on my 3rd playthrough for this year. It's like I keep doing it. I'm like, I should take it out, because anytime I start playing it, then I
get lost
other
and
games that I haven't played yet, and I'm like on my 10th playthrough. It's like I freaking love that game.
Yeah, I haven't touched Subnautica in a long time. After some funny business with their development company, I was just like, I just can't really go back into it. But I've been kind of curious about it, because I mean, I know they've put a lot of work into it. I just know they had this weird rule about never wanting to have guns in it. I'm like, but okay,
I don't know if it's a rule, but it was
like their own personal. It was like their own personal mission plan or something like that, where it's like, no, we don't want to include that kind of weaponry in the game. And I think there were some modders that tried to, and I think they got into trouble for it. I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked into Subnautica. I just know like they've put a lot of work into that game. I thought it was another really cool concept. And I played it when it was pretty still bare bones.
Yeah, it's come a long way since its initial release.
I know I played it as initial release, and then sometime later I tried it out, and they had added a bunch of stuff, and I got into it a little bit.
One thing that was really awesome is they added new stuff in the sequel, which was Below Zero, and they actually eventually backported it into the original game.
Oh, that's good.
It was really cool.
Yeah, I heard about them having a sequel for it. I just kind of lost track.
I'm glad that they don't have guns in it, because it definitely doesn't really fit in the game. So I'm glad for that.
I mean,
there is the stasis gun, but it only freezes enemies for like 10 or 15, 30 seconds or whatever. Okay. But there's no actual gun that you can use to do damage.
I mean, you fabricate so many different items in that game. I mean, I couldn't imagine how you wouldn't have
a lot of crafting.
Yeah, a lot of crafting. I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, it's not a major sticking point where it's like, oh, I gotta have a gun. It was just kind of always just kind of a funny thing that popped in when that whole subject came up, and I was like, whatever. At the end of the day, I mean, it's still an interesting game.
So yeah, if you ever play it, I'd have, as long as I'm able to, I'd happy to be there. Basically, anytime I see someone streaming Subnautica, I'll hop in the chat. Like last week, Horny Alf started streaming it, and Paul Hadouken tagged me in Discord saying that Horny Alpha is playing Subnautica, and I was like, oh, I was already in the chat before you even tagged me in Discord about it.
Way ahead of you.
Way ahead of you. So, and if you need any help, like, I would love to. I offered this to Kay too, because I think she said that she wants to play it at some point. It's like, I'd love to be like your coach and like co-pilot. I'll just be on the voice chat while you're streaming the game, and then I'll talk to you about it. I just freaking love that game so much. But she says no. Switch games are not mobile games because they go on the TV.
Yeah, they go on the TV. That's the difference.
All mobile games matter. JK.
Just kidding.
And the infamous words, don't you have phones?
Yeah, don't you guys have phones?
What here? I hadn't actually thought about this until just now, but I have mentioned a bunch about. I want to say it was E3 2013 or 2014 when Microsoft shot themselves in the foot with the announcement of the Xbox One.
Oh my god, that was such a moment. I was
like,
waiting.
It was hard to be an Xbox fan after that.
I was waiting. Okay, like it was. I had friends that were planning on getting the PS4. I had friends that were planning on getting the Xbox One, and I was just kind of waiting to see how E3 was going to play out, to see where I might want to lean more towards, because I was a fence sitter. I hate to admit it, but hey, sometimes you kind of got to be on that fence. But I was just kind of waiting and seeing, and then Microsoft was like, so you have to have the Kinect, you have to do daily check-ins, your games are DRM to the machines, you cannot share them with friends. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Sony just kind of comes on out, probably strutting their stuff. I didn't actually see it, but they're just like walking on out and be like, we ain't doing any of that. Well, you got my
PlayStation, and they handed it to each other.
Yeah, and I went and pre-ordered the PS4 at GameStop as soon as I heard that news, and I'm like, all right, I know where I'm going.
But yeah, I've mentioned that on streams a few times, but one thing I hadn't until just now is what was the bigger oof, that or the don't you guys have phones?
That was another big shot, shooting themselves in the foot kind of moment for Blizzard there, because it's not knowing your audience, it's not knowing the audience to that particular game. On top of it, it's like, yeah, maybe not like your global audience, but like your audience for Diablo. Where was Diablo most on? PC. What are people known to play it? On a freaking computer, playing with mouse and keyboard. They don't want to play it on their stupid phone.
Yeah, I think once it finally came out, I did download Diablo Immortal, but I'm not sure I
haven't touched it myself. A buddy of mine, my co-host Jay Hitman, said he checked it out, and he's like, this is the worst thing ever. I'm like, I could have told you that.
About it, like someone was doing like the research, and it would cost like 20 grand or something.
Yes, that was ridiculous.
It's like, oh my god, that's nuts. Talk about scam monetization.
Oh, so okay, we got 3. So we got the Xbox moment, we got the Diablo moment.
Okay,
there's another one. There's the EA Respawn moment with Battlefront 2. And if I don't know if you remember that one, but in order to properly earn or get a lot of the skins and the extra content in the game, you'd effectively have to also, just like in Diablo, dump a bunch of money into the game in order to properly get the unlocks for all the loot boxes and stuff like that.
You're talking about the monetization and the loot box. Yes, I definitely remember that. I thought we were talking about some sort of like press conference where they
No. Well, and they lied about the storyline being an Imperial storyline, but
like by mission 2, you're a good guy.
Yeah, you're already switching sides. Piss off. That's not the same. The original Battlefront 2 in 2005 gave you your proper Imperial storyline. Piss off. But no, so I work retail, and I remember warning so many people about Battlefront 2 that I know I annoyed the piss out of them. But I also alerted people to that fact that didn't know, and they're like, "Oh, thank you." And I did.
Did your good deed for the day.
I always looked at it as like, hey, I'm not just being somebody on Twitter or somebody in a forums trying to tell people to avoid a game. I'm telling somebody as is IRL, but yeah, a real flesh and blood person right in front of me going, so this is the thing with this game. Just as a heads up for you. I like to inform people on these things because it's my hobby as well. I
Yeah.
love it. I've loved gaming for a long time. I don't like the turn that it's made. I don't like what it's become. And so
Yeah,
any
Kay
chance
is
like
saying here these companies are so out of touch.
yes, and I like to at least give people a heads up. And like I'm also somebody that flips the back of the box and goes, so your game is mature rated with blood and gore, intense violence, drugs and alcohol. I'll read the list to like parents, to
Oh,
grandparents, aunts,
like,
uncles.
I want to get my little 4-year-old Timmy Grand
Right.
Theft
Well, and
Auto.
like
It's like, no, you
they
don't.
will like the kids that are trying to like rope their parents or rope their grandparents or be
Sure.
like, hey, can you buy us this game, who don't know a
Anything.
thing.
Yeah.
The actual definition of normie for going into buying somebody a video game. And it's just like, hey, so by the way, GTA, yeah, mature rated, blood and gore, intense violence, drugs and alcohol, sexual themes, sexual content, whatever it is. This is like the laundry list. And I have had people just get shocked the hell. They're like,
what was I about to buy?
what?
Yeah, fractions.
And they'll look at the kid and be like, I'm gonna have to talk to your mother about or your father about this or whomever. We're gonna before we can actually buy you this game. And I get some dirty looks from some of those kids because they're like, you just messed me up out of a game. And I was like, hey,
I picked the wrong store to come to. Dang it.
yeah. As I was like, hey, I got that served to me once upon a time too, especially after the whole Columbine incident that took place, and where a lot of extra hate and attention toward. I'm not trying to divert it in that direction. I'm just saying that
Right.
a lot of negative
thing at the
attention came upon gaming, and it did make it that a lot of stores had to start cracking down on just exactly where all the sales were going to. So I remember when I used to be able to easily go into, I think it was Software Etc. at the time, or maybe it was becoming GameStop or something.
I forgot that name.
Right?
Existed until just now.
I still remember this shit. But I remember trying to buy. I don't remember what I was trying to get at the time, but it was probably like a mature rated-ish game. I was like, "What? Come on!" And they're like, "No, you can't get it." So I was like, "All right, fine," because I didn't have because like sometimes I've gone into places at the time like I had a check from my mom or something like that, so they were like, "Oh, okay." I think it's like a lot of times that happened at like Blockbuster, but like they're like, "No, sorry, we can't sell you this game." So I understood, and it's like, "Hey, you gotta run the gauntlet, kid." But it is a thing. Nobody really looks at just what the content is being labeled on these particular games, and that's what it's supposed to be there for. And that I just like it is. I just tell them, hey, this is what's in the game, and then I leave
you can make an informed decision. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. This just be aware of this.
Exactly. And that's general. And I'll be like, come on. I mean, the Battlefront 2 thing, I was like, I was already pissed at EA. I was pissed at EA. I was pissed at Star Wars. I was like, come on, do you really want to do this to yourself? Like, really? Come on. No. But no, it's just like, it's all about just like, yeah, I want you to make that proper informed decision so that you walk away and you keep your purchase. You're not returning it, being pissed off, like you got duped or anything. No, that's where it is. So it's like, yes, make that informed decision going into that purchase. So that's where I get at.
Yeah, the only time I think I ever had something similar was I had to convince my mom to get me GoldenEye. I was in middle school though, and I was rated teen. I remember the day I went and got GoldenEye. I was so excited, and for good reason. That was such a good game.
I remember we had first rented it a few times at Blockbuster. And I remember one time after taking some stuff in, and we were going to rent some more stuff, and I wanted to go and get GoldenEye again at some point. I remember hanging out because I even asked them, I was like, so are you guys going to have GoldenEye at any point? They're like, yeah, one should be returning today. I'm like, really? Okay. And this is like a summer vacation or something like that. And I'm like, I did. I waited. I hung around and I was just like kind of looking at all the video games. I'm like, I'm getting that GoldenEye. I got my patience paid off because I did.
That cartridge got my name on it.
Exactly. exactly. But then it was even better. Like, yes, once I actually got my own copy for at home, and my brother and I played the ever loving hell out of it, and he was the one that earned a lot of the unlocks,
cheats?
especially the invincibility, which was
Yeah,
you had
some
to
of those were
play.
hard,
You had to play through facility, I think, on the toughest difficulty
and it was
and
like a
get
two and
beat
a
it.
half minute time frame. It was super
It
short.
was something like that. But you had to beat it in a ridiculous amount of time, and that was crazy. My brother did a lot of that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you are awesome, little bro. Thank you.
Yeah, so I had played it previously because some of my friends had it, and we had played it.
Right.
4-player was the first time I ever played a 4-player game. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
So I knew I was able to. I'm like, Mom, it's not that bad. So she got it for me. But then a couple years later, when basically the spiritual sequel came out,
Perfect Dark. Yeah.
That was like my favorite game of all time for years. That one was actually rated M, although I don't really see why it didn't have anything in it that was really any worse.
It's
than
mostly
GoldenEye.
supposed to be considered like the blood and violence and stuff like that. That's where and maybe
but I went to go get
references
it,
to alcohol and stuff like that.
and it was rated M, which I didn't realize, so they wouldn't sell it to me. So I had that have my mom like, but it's the sequel to GoldenEye, which you let me have, and so I was
Right.
Perfect Dark. But yeah, I freaking loved that game.
God, so many spent hours. So that was the thing too. GoldenEye ruined me in the sense of like, because you had for multiplayer, you had basically not the golden gun mode, but the one hit kill mode in multiplayer, and we always turned that on. So like, no matter who we were playing as and stuff. I mean, we also did occasionally the no odd job, but I always got that little son of a gun. But it was called one hit kill. So if somebody got the jump on you, that first shot on you, you were done.
It was SWAT before SWAT was a thing.
Right.
Halo.
And I've not had that since, and I just can't play an online multiplayer shooter the same because I want that same effect. If I get the jump on somebody, I want to know I've taken them down first. Not they had some BS. Oh, I got a special recovery, or I still have my armor. No, I want to kill them immediately, especially because I always aim for their noggin. I go for the headshot as often as I freaking can. If I'm getting a headshot, I should earn that kill. So it's always annoying me.
That was one of the reasons why I hated Gears of War multiplayer so much, is that it took so many shots to take someone down.
Bullet sponge is not fun,
of the
folks.
time I'm unloading half a magazine into someone, and then they go around the corner, and then they're fine. I was not a fan of Gears multiplayer, but I like the first co-op.
Co-op can be fun. Co-op can be good.
I've never, well, other than back in the days of like, LAN parties with Halo 1 and split screen with GoldenEye and stuff, but I've never really been big on multiplayer versus. But if it's on multiplayer co-op, I'm all over that.
Yeah,
like
I think the closest thing
I've played the hell out of the multiplayer in that because I freaking love it. And Destiny,
yes, when that came out, me and my brother and a couple of online buddies, we all got together and played the bejesus out of the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, and I liked it because it was
a couple times a month.
Oh yeah, I liked it because of the whole cooperative aspect to it. You weren't killing other players.
AI much more.
Yeah, and it was just called Horde mode. Let's go. I ended up at least when I was last really playing it, I really liked the Solarian. Oh God, I don't remember if it was like a Solarian.
Remember what its abilities were?
I don't know if it was like a Solarian like Vanguard or Engineer or something like that.
There is a Solarian Engineer. There's no Solarian in Vanguard.
Maybe it was a Engineer. I don't remember, but I just remember playing the hell out of it with a Solarian. I don't know why, but I just really dug it. I was having fun with it. It was a blast.
Multiplayer was still early on because they made some pretty significant changes to it a good chunk of time after the game had come out. But in the early days, before they started releasing additional characters, the Solarian Engineer was one of the best characters. And
I'm
if you
trying
were
to remember
going
now.
for gold, because I don't even think platinum had been. No, they had added platinum, but platinum difficulty wasn't there on launch. But before they started adding a lot of other characters, if you were going for platinum, someone basically had to be the Solarian Engineer because of his decoy ability. It
Yeah.
was
Okay. Yeah. I think it was the Solarian Engineer then. Yeah.
yeah,
I think I remember using that.
that ability was basically almost required to beat platinum.
Yeah.
And I played a heck of a lot of that character before they started adding some of the even better characters.
My God, another game where it's just like a love-hate relationship. Like I liked aspects of it, but God, BioWare, what the hell were you thinking with that goddamn game? You were trying to be all like, "Oh, we're gonna do the dreary freaking ending." Like, oh God.
Yeah, being that Mass Effect is my favorite franchise and Mass Effect 3 is my single favorite game of all time. I've talked about Mass Effect a lot on my channel.
I
But I know I'm obviously a Mass Effect 3 defender, but it doesn't get as much hate as it did because a lot of people have realized, most people's complaint was the ending, but other than that, the rest of
the they did that whole they did that whole like
about the rest
cookie
of the game,
cutter.
That was the big thing that everyone hated the most.
Yeah, they did the whole like add-on, tacked-on ending, but I'm like, also at the same time, I'm like, I put all of that time into the multiplayer. I put the time to make sure my war effort stuff was completely maxed and over it. I'm sorry, but I want my happy Star Wars ending. God dang it! I'm not asking for a lot here, BioWare, and also some freaking endings that make some freaking sense. I said, even when it first came out, like 99% of the game was fantastic.
Yes.
But that last 1% is just where they just dropped the ball and completely Amber Heard the bed.
Very true.
It was unfortunate because yes, I loved Mass Effect, even though like 2 was kind of iffy because that felt a little like
that's everyone's favorite.
It felt side story-ish, more like a big side quest. But I liked it because they also changed up some of the gameplay. They refined the gameplay a lot in 2.
Big change,
especially for Vanguard. Vanguard became a fun beast of a class to play as. And 3.
One thing that also helped 3 was how bad Andromeda was received. It took a lot of heat off.
Well, that had that effect. Andromeda just was such a pile that everybody was like, "Oh, actually, Mass Effect 3 is really freaking good." But 3,
I'm an Andromeda defender though as well, but it's definitely nowhere near as good as the original trilogy. I just don't think it deserved as much hate as it got.
We'll agree to disagree. I mainly because I haven't really played all the way through it. My brother has, I haven't. So I only know from him. He and I are kind of usually on the same wavelength when it comes to games. But like he's like, it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be, but at the same time, there's a lot of janky stuff.
Yeah.
But Mass Effect 3, because also what was supposed to be like a big thing too was like they were first talking about that game and how if you got Shepard killed in Mass Effect 2, you were supposed to have a whole brand new hero in 3. Supposedly, they were talking about those. I remember
hearing about that as well because I was curious. I was like, I know I've heard that in Mass Effect 2, Shepard can die. So I was like, how does Mass Effect 3 continue the story then?
Right.
So I eventually, after I'd played through Mass Effect 2 a few times, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see how I can actually get Shepard killed because it's actually pretty difficult to do. It actually took me like
you had to really drop the ball on that suicide mission,
right? Which means making literally every decision wrong,
right?
And figuring out which ones are the wrong decisions. But I finally got Shepard killed, and then I tried to import it into Mass Effect 3, and it's like, Shepard said you can't import it.
Shepard is
okay.
I was like,
Shepard has actually do it.
Yeah, and Shepard has somehow returned again.
Yeah, no Palpatining him for some reason he's alive again.
Again, after Mass Effect 2 when he got spaced and then Cerberus revived him. Yeah. God, like Mass Effect 3
is a 10 of 10 game, which is a lot of people say that.
Like I like aspects of 2, but like I said, it just felt like a big filler episode to me. Like I liked it. It was funny too, because I remember first hearing about characters like Mordin, and they were like, oh, he's this very snotty kind of scientist, sort of big brain type, that where he's just gonna be more like obnoxious than anything. And then I play the game, I'm like, he's like one of my favorite freaking characters.
He's like everyone's favorite.
One of everyone's favorite characters in that game. And again, the human characters all kind of sucked. But 2, like I said, it had some great aspects to it. I just felt it was very, very. To me, it felt short. It felt like just kind of a filler episode of something. Like they were trying to make it into like a mainline story. It just unfortunately did not have that same feeling. To me, I like Mass Effect 1 is the definitive game of that series, because while the gameplay is kind of clunky, I think the story is much better written. A lot of the character interactions are fantastic, and the soundtrack, again, amazing. Just so much fond memories with that soundtrack playing. You got such a again, I hate reusing some of these words, but it's like there's such a comfy feeling to it all. It really worked so well with the universe and just exploring each planet. And when it did kick off, when it did, I really that's just to me like definitive Mass Effect.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't argue with basically anyone saying that any one of the trilogy is their favorite game. They definitely arguments can be made for all of them for being the best one in the franchise.
Yeah. So, I just think they kind of like later on, it just kind of, they didn't quite know what they wanted to flesh out for the Reapers. Like they had a general idea, but after 1, it just kind of like they turned into like super Cthulhu monsters, which I don't think they were quite intended to initially. Like they were meant to be a big, like, yes, deep threat, but they were still fallible, that they were able to be defeated with a collective effort. Once it got to 3, it was just called, oh, we're doomed. There's nothing we can do. Yes, we have this super weapon, but we're still screwed. I'm like, well, okay, well, I'm not feeling exactly that motivated here, guys, to want to get this, because like what also like bugged me with like the ending of 3 is like, why aren't you guys using some of the same tactics from the first game? Concentrate fire on each individual Reaper. Do that. Why aren't you doing that? It's shown to work. What the hell's wrong with you people? But yeah, for me, this is like Mass Effect 1. I just think was just kind of the tops for it. Personally, like, I mean, I liked 2. I liked some of the extra stuff that they brought in. I like Grunt. Grunt was a great character to me. I still love just, when you have the little confrontation when you first bring him out of the tank, and you can do the whole he just kind of does this laughs and goes, I like you, Shepard. You offer your hand, but arm the other. I'm like, I like you too, dude. I like you too.
This guy.
Yeah, I like this guy. And then they brought in Zaid, who always was like, it was goddamn suicide. And for like all of his missions he talked about. And even better was that he was voiced
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and he was voiced by the same actor that voiced Canderous from Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh,
so that was even better.
That.
Neither did I, because it's so different from the two of them. But yeah, that was. And Mass Effect 3, God, I couldn't. Basically, like, what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character.
James Vega.
I would have happily vented him out in airlock.
You would have spaced him.
I would have spaced him freaking fast. I couldn't stand him. I found him obnoxious. He was kind of my new Karth. I would have happily spaced him. I would have happily have brought anybody else. Ashley, Kaiden, even though I wasn't too big on both of their characters initially, I've kind of warmed up to Ashley a little bit over the years.
That's James' favorite.
I know that's his space waifu. But no, it's always been like the funny thing, like the human characters in Mass Effect. The Mass Effect series I've never been huge on. Jack wasn't bad. She was kind of a cliche, but I liked her. I didn't mind some of her antics. But like for me, it's like the top tier characters was Garrus, Rex, Tali, Morden, Grunt, and I did like Javik, just because of that line. We'll vent them out on airlock. I'm like, okay, I'm down for that. But like it was like, to me, like the alien characters, just for some reason they just did so well. And Garrus was basically like space Batman. He actually shot and killed people. And I just love it. Was like you had a total bro thing with Garrus too, with some of the stuff that went on, and I was like, I just liked his character in general.
Yeah, he was a great character.
So, and then like once it got to 3, which they returned. Oh, Samara wasn't bad, although she was kind of like a weird optional character you could get or didn't get depending on if you were Paragon or Renegade. I remember right. Because you could get her twisted daughter. You could get her, and then I guess technically betray her.
Yes, and switch
for
her,
her daughter. For Morinth.
But yeah, I don't think you can not get her at all. But yeah, you can.
Yeah, and Joker, I think got better in Mass Effect 2 for sure.
Yeah, I like Joker.
And Dr. Chalk was top tier right there. I loved her character, even though it was very minor. I liked Chakwas.
Yeah.
But then Mass Effect 3, the whole Mass Effect franchise, the main first 3 games, as a collective whole, I love them to death. They're one of my favorites for sure. I just wish and I'll say, like, they wrote themselves into a hole with some of this stuff, and it was really tough to try and keep all of those threads together with all of the characters' dialogue choices and stuff like that. I get that. It is. It really is. But they also should have kind of understood what they were working themselves into when allowing those certain gameplay options and everything to then, okay, we really got to like take stock of everything to make this then the final game, this thing where we are tying up everything, because this is meant to be the end all be all. At least at that time, that's what the idea was to, especially for Shepard and the story. So, I mean, I get it. They had some tough challenges and everything to get through, but I just really wish the three just stuck the landing a little better. And really, I mean, it's such a thing because, like, it's just unfortunate what it came down to. And I mean, like, old games are guilty of this too. Deus Ex had basically like a button push ending. Like, you pick different buttons to push, and that ends the game in different ways.
Are you talking about the rebooted one?
No, I'm talking about so
because I know they did that with
those are the prequels. Those are the prequels. The prequels that they did. But yeah, the original,
so the rebooted ones were prequels.
Those were prequels, yes, which makes
not know that.
Little to no sense considering the level of technology they display. And again, kind of calling back to the YouTuber I mentioned, Ross Scott, he did a review of Human Revolution. Like, he said, that game is effectively like somebody wanting to make an entirely other game than a Deus Ex game. It was basically somebody wanting to do like an Akira, Metal Gear, Ghost in the Shell style game, and not a Deus Ex game, because it was definitely very different than what Deus Ex had originally done. Yes, the gameplay mechanics and stuff were all there, and they did have mentions a little bit with like Bob Page and everything, but it was still. And then of course, yeah, the ending was just a button push and everything. And the original Deus Ex, like I said, kind of had that happen a little bit. Same with Invisible War. So old games are not free of that criticism of like Mass Effect 3 where it did red, blue, green. You are frozen. Am I frozen? Is the stream frozen? Just checking on it. Okay, I'm still going. Chat, hello. I've taken over for the moment. How are you doing right now? Nerdy Neo has unfortunately gone stiff. Oh, here we go. He's back. All right.
I'm back. I have no idea what the heck that was. It just popped up saying, "Oops, disconnected, reconnecting." Like, I don't know what to do. This never happened before.
I know. I saw you lock up, and I was like, still just trying to talk and keep going. I'm like, hopefully he unfreezes.
I could hear you just fine for probably about 15 seconds, and then it froze completely. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Oh no!
I'm hoping it comes back, and then like another 15 seconds later, it came back.
There it goes.
That was weird.
But yeah, like I was saying, the old games in general aren't
Oh yeah, definitely nothing
aren't free of that criticism or anything. But it's like I'll still hold them all to the same standard. So yeah, when you just present me with a red, blue, green ending, it's like, BioWare, come on. To me, it's kind of like Obi-Wan. You are the chosen ones.
Yes.
And I mean, we've put, I think as gamers, we put our hopes into some of these companies where it's like, we hope to God that they just keep on the right path. And it's like, we should know by now. We should know better than to allow ourselves some of that, because like BioWare, I mean, you blame who you want, either the company themselves or EA, but I always break it down to the people in that spot still made the decisions they made. So they unfortunately gave us the product they did. Same with like, recently the whole CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk, that debacle of a game when that first released, No Man's Sky, all of these sort of things, and especially, but like more to like
some good games, but it took a while.
I mean, think about again the old games when we got completed product and they weren't reliant. Yeah, they weren't reliant on this constant online connection to do updates and all that. That's a lot of what my problem is now. It's like they've used that as such a crutch.
If they released a broken game, it was broken.
Yeah, it was broken. They had the
fact,
and that's why we cycled through so many companies back in the day, because like they would put out a major stinker and it's like, all right, well, companies folded, they're gone. They messed up in some way or another.
Yeah.
So, and it's like we've kind of, it's like CD Projekt Red, I think, was kind of the most recent ones that I could think of where it's like we had so much hope for them, because like even though Witcher 3 had its problems,
yeah, not a lot of people
they were trying to extend,
very broken state as well, but
yeah, they were trying to at least put out a hand towards the fans of like, we're grateful for you, we're thankful for you, and all that. Like I remember the little, replicated printed out card that we got in the Witcher 3 game box of saying, we appreciate you, the fans. It's like, oh, that's so nice of you.
Yeah, or like
but then it's just like, all right, this is
the beginning of Maverick.
Right, exactly that. And it's just like, you kind of have to step away for a moment and go, no, this is some corporate speak. They're just trying to get you on your side. But this is also me being jaded about it.
Yeah.
But it is just like, then it's like, then, Cyberpunk comes along, and I remember seeing the first quote unquote gameplay trailer. I remember first seeing that, and
2017, I want
something like that. I remember seeing it, and then I was immediately out because I saw the gameplay, the quote unquote gameplay trailer, as being very on rails, and especially when it got to the car chase sequence, which I don't know if you remember that so much, but I remember just like the car chase sequence just to me was very much like an Ubisoft trailer, gameplay trailer, where like you could at least to me it did not look like natural gameplay. It was very scripted, very on rails, and they had it set up all too perfectly for it. And to me, that was a warning sign that I think they've gotten a little too corporate now. Effectively, their cyberpunk game, all about the over intrusion of corporations and stuff like that. What do you know? So I immediately started going, I'm sorry, but I am out. My hype level dropped to basically zero at that point. And I was really excited at first. I'm like, this will be awesome as a futuristic setting sort of thing. I loved the Witcher series, what they did with it, the world, and all of that. Because I also was kind of blind to not knowing it was originally a book series initially, but I was excited for it. I'm like, this should be cool. And then that first trailer drops. I'm like, I am done. Then the game drops eventually. I'm like, I feel vindicated. But then you also learn, like, supposedly the Keanu Reeves thing was a sudden insert.
You're breathtaking.
Right. Well, that was like suddenly he was not initially. It was a great moment. But it was very much possibly like a WB was like, we want a big name to get put into this game. So Johnny Silverhand got much more frontline center to the storyline, which I heard, take it with a grain of salt or whatever, that initially his character was not so prominent in the game. I
heard that too.
As he became, and I think that became then, especially once it's like, oh, Keanu Reeves, they're gonna have him as that character. They want him more in it to probably get the most bang for their buck, and I think that really messed with their development time, because also the game was also meant to originally have third person perspective, which then it just only turned into first person, because then you would and I know there were some mods out there that were making that a reality, that they were bringing back the third person perspective instead of the first. Because I mean, yeah, if you are able to put a bunch of like character choice details and stuff into your character, designing their face and whatever, you want to be able to like go outside and see your character walking around the world. At least I would. I'm going to put a bunch of time into creating my character.
That's what I love about Elder Scrolls. You can switch between first and
right. That was going to be my point to that too. Yeah, Elder Scrolls allows you to do that. Go from first to third
too. Yeah.
Yeah, Fallout is what Fallout 3 and stuff is just Elder Scrolls with guns.
Yes. Can you switch between first and third person in Starfield? Do you know?
I haven't played it, so I have no clue. You can. You probably can. I would imagine so. But you know, they had to change a lot of that game to meet also then the deadline. So for Cyberpunk, so unfortunately, it just turned into the big mess that it was. It's like, you know, this is sometimes that problem when these small, once very I don't know if I want to say independent companies, but I mean they're certainly smaller companies at the time. They get eaten up by
AAA giants.
Yeah, they get eaten up by the giants, and it's just unfortunate because then they just lose a lot of their heart and soul.
Yeah,
of what they were once were passion projects turn into factory assembly.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to see. To me, I mean, yeah, we had probably like our factory assembly games back in the day too. I'm not totally nostalgia goggled on it, but like there were definitely a lot more passion projects going on with games, especially when you deep dive into old games like Doom, and just the meticulous and crazy coding that went into Doom for the enemy AI, and then just the general gameplay and the way they set everything up, it is crazy. I forget the guy's channel, but he does a lot of breakdowns of just everything that went into like the original Dooms, and just the way they really revolutionized things for the enemy AI, the way like it is, like the way certain sounds are cued in the game for when you're like walking around even, and then the whole aspect of the way the enemies can turn on each other and start fighting each other, still fighting you. It's just insane, just those sort of things. But that's what, like, these developers, they themselves were the arcade junkies, always there with their quarters playing all these all those old games that were in those spots, and they themselves finally got to a point where they could start working and making their own stuff. And that's even like the same with like the Mortal Kombat series. I recently was like rewatching some behind the scenes for Mortal Kombat 1 through 3, and just like the crazy stuff that they did just to make those games a reality, the way they had to edit the characters so they fit in the world, and just how they had to have the actors do all the different poses, and the way they had to set up the spots for them to do those poses. And you saw a lot of that passion and a lot of the way they were really wanting to make these things come to life, even though like they might have just been like, okay, we want you to make a fighting game to compete with Street Fighter 2 or something. And then it was just called, okay, we've got an idea already. John Tobias was already kind of doing a lot of the story, the world building and everything for it, was writing a lot of it out, getting a lot of the stuff fleshed out too. And then you see like the way Ed Boon, the way he was helping develop the fighting, the way everything also worked with the sound to make everything feel so weighty, and really like the hits really counted. And that's why definitely I could see why even probably still today the Mortal Kombat games play really well, but everything else is kind of faltered because you don't have the same developer and that's also kind of part of it. You don't have the same dev team still working on everything anymore like they start out as. BioWare's lost a lot of the original team. I know, same with CD Projekt Red. They've lost a lot of their original team.
Basically, all those big name studios that, got big from, whatever game,
from whatever projects
or whatever, they're basically completely different studios now.
Effectively, yeah.
It's like the logical problem, I guess. It's called the Ship of Theseus, I think, where you have a ship, or I might be getting the name mixed up, but it's, like there's no like right or wrong answer, just like come up with an answer and then defend it sort of thing,
right?
But you have a ship, and a board gets damaged, so you replace that board, and then another one does, and eventually every piece of wood on that ship is a different piece than it originally was.
Right.
Is it the same ship or is it a different ship?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see.
Similar thing with these
with
studios.
That,
it has the same name, but none of the same people. So is it the same studio?
Yeah, it doesn't have the same foundation anymore that it used to. And that's, I mean, I get it. Either people are just kind of either burnt out, or they want to work on different stuff, but just feel they aren't because they're locked into their sequels and stuff, like the franchises and everything. So some will go off and form new companies, or some just kind of retire and like, I'm done. I get it. It's gotten the whole industry's gotten really crazy the way it is now. So, I mean, I'm sure like you remember, like it was such a fledgling thing back in the day until then we started getting more and more like the magazines, the coverage. We started hearing about these things like E3 and all of that stuff, and it's just kept growing and growing.
Niche field, and now it's like the biggest. Biggest entertainment industry, basically more movies. But yeah, there were a lot of like interesting games, back in the SNES days.
Oh yeah,
that you would never see made nowadays from these studios. Then there was kind of like like the Xbox 360 era or Xbox 360 era, where those things kind of all went away. We had this big void where basically all we got were like the big, the big
Yeah.
AAA studio games
Well, and
until Xbox innovated with the Xbox Live Arcade and the indies, and really
right.
ushered in a new era for developers, indie developers to get their ideas out there, and you see those passion projects again come to fruition, rather than we don't, that's too risky, we don't want to spend
Yes.
money that we may
Yeah.
not get back and do something risky. Let's just stick to making the 1200th Call of Duty.
We know what sells, we'll just stick with that, basically. Yeah.
Exactly.
I 100%. Well, and I think also part of it was like you look back and just see like just how crazy the art looks for
We're kind of
the only company that's still in the same
Nintendo.
as Nintendo. Yeah, credit to the Japanese work culture. But like look at like the old sprite art from those old games, like Super Metroid, Super Mario, and all that. Just like people don't replicate that sort of art design and what really went into the old pixel arts. Because like, yeah, people have the retro look and stuff like that, but there's still just something that feels like it's kind of missing.
You're talking about like a lot of the newer pixel art games.
Yeah, more. I mean, like even like Stardew Valley and what's the other? Hang on, I still have it in
Harvest
right
Moon.
Not Harvest Moon.
Animal Crossing.
No, because I'm talking more like still the 2D sprites and stuff like that. This is kind of a
the Stardew Valley.
So Stardew Valley is kind of the Harvest Moon style game with combat, but the other one is I'm trying to remember the name, but it's basically like Minecraft, but Terraria.
Oh, Terraria. Okay, not
Terraria.
What I was thinking of.
So like, yeah, they mimic the sprite art and that sort of art style, but there's just still like some of it feels like it's still missing a lot of the detail and everything that went into the original work that they designed for those old games. At least to me, it just still the newer stuff just kind of feels like a weird like it is like a copy. It's gone through the copy machine so many times. Yeah, so many times that it's lost. Basically, like it is like kind of like Static 2's point. Corporations don't understand development is just as much an art as it is a technical skill, and I think that's been lost in some of it too. And like we already just said, a lot of the passion just isn't quite there. I've said this about Disney Star Wars and everything on our show, is that they are just looking to basically get their name on a resume. They're getting their name onto certain projects to say, yes, I did this project. They aren't there to put their heart and soul into a project, to put that passion and everything. They just need a name and they're just on to their next gig. They're basically are like freelancers all the time.
Yeah, well, with how often you hear about studios letting go all their staff after they finish a game, definitely makes sense.
That'll especially happen.
Making $1 billion bonuses and then letting all the staff go. That make sense.
Yeah, well, that happened too with like the a lot of the QA testers and stuff like that. I went through that when I did work. I had a 6-month stint working for EA doing QA work. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I don't know why I did, but I just really I just got into it. I don't know if I do have some autism or something, but it was just like I think just because I love the hobby, I love the industry so much still at that time. That was like I am getting to put my name onto a product, while not the best thing out there in the world, but I still got to be a part of something like that. I got to help out and point things out to help make the game maybe just that little bit better. And unfortunately, yeah, like it is, they cycle out everybody. QA testers, developers, some do have more of the whole like kind of seniority sort of thing, but a lot of times, yeah, like you said, they'll just clear house and get ready for a new crew. And that's where a lot of it gets lost as well.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
A minute ago when you're talking about like the copy of the copy of the copy, I never saw this movie, but I know that's basically the premise. But I think it was Michael Keaton with Multiplicity, where they're like all these clones of him, and each progressive one gets dumber and dumber.
Dumber and dumber. Yeah. I've heard about. I remember seeing like the commercials for that and stuff too. I haven't watched that movie, but I know about it. Yeah,
I've never seen it, but I've heard it's a pretty decent comedy from the late '90s. But maybe
late, either late '90s, early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah,
it might have been midnight because I know it was definitely after his Batman stint at some point.
Yeah. That was saying, another thing, Hollywood and gaming are different. People that get into gaming usually are getting into it because of the passion, and then it's ripped out of them.
Sometimes, but then you hear about like the game journos and stuff like that, and they only got in just to get some kind of journalistic job. They didn't have a passion for the hobby. They didn't care for it. They were just getting a job because they wanted to actually be writing for the New Yorker or whatever the hell else they were mainly. They felt game journalism was so beneath them, but they needed the job. So they took it anyways
as a stepping stone to bigger and better,
to potentially go to
cared about it in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I still attribute a lot of it to.
Yeah,
but he's also still not wrong. It's just still a lot of that. There's a lot of that as well. You can't. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things you can't avoid. No, not everybody's fully in.
Yeah. So, and then one other thing I just want to touch on from a little while back, that because I mentioned this on a very recent stream, is that I felt that Mass Effect 3 was more of a sequel to Mass Effect 1 than Mass Effect 2 was, because Mass Effect 2 definitely did feel like this kind of like side quest that didn't really have much bearing on the rest of the franchise. But
I don't know, because I feel like it does pick up not right after 2, but well enough after 2 that you got that connective tissue going on, because it's like,
more so in that a lot of the main story points in Mass Effect 1 that you make these big decisions you don't see the fruition of those in Mass Effect 2. You don't see that until Mass Effect 3.
Okay. Because like you said, like it is 2, a lot of stuff takes a back seat because it's like, we're preparing for the Reapers, you're under Cerberus, so you're kind of exiled from everything else you were once doing, and things only get maybe like lightly referenced, and that's like it. I can kind of see that. Yeah.
So when you said like it was kind of like this big side
quest,
I definitely agree with you. Not that it's a bad thing, because Mass Effect 2 is definitely
it's not a total bad thing, but it does feel a little disconnected from what you were previously doing. And I was always like, God dang it, I want my Shepard to go full freaking big boss, give the whole rest of the galaxy the finger. At least after 2. After 2 is called, like, he gives the finger to the rest of the galaxy because Cerberus has basically betrayed him at that point. It's called, I'm going out there, I'm collecting all my resources, I'm compiling all my resources, I'm going to build the biggest, baddest army I freaking can. Damn them all. I ain't going back to the Alliance. Screw them, because all they want to do is try and court-martial me for something I was trying to help prevent.
Bureaucratic BS.
Yeah, all the bureaucratic BS. But yeah, I'm like, you want to say I have the player has the choice, then let me make this choice. I don't want to be a part of this. Let me be off and do my big boss thing and create a big army to try and kick the teeth in on those dang Reapers. But Shepard, I guess, this goes back. It's like, all right, here, take me in. We'll do this. I'm like, oh, dude, really? The problem when you allow a player choice for a character, because then players like myself, we get this whole other vision for Shepard that formulates like, no, that's not what I want him to do.
But I don't know if Kay is still out there in the chat, but I wanted to highlight this from earlier. I was not ignoring it. I did save it to bring it up because we have, like I said earlier,
Yeah, we're gabbing on. We're going off of all sorts of shit. So.
But finally, we can agree on something because Mass Effect, yes, is better than Mace Windu.
I did see that. Yeah,
we can agree on that because Mass Effect 3 is amazing.
Mace Windu out the window.
So, yeah, we are. Wow, this is my longest stream ever.
All right.
Yeah. So we are just a couple seconds short of 3 hours here, so that's cool. I wonder if we're gonna make
Come on, let's get. We gotta get it. We gotta get it. Gotta get it.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun having you on and chatting video games.
This was refreshing. This was refreshing. I love video games so much. I've been trying to find my own way to start talking more about it in the industry and stuff, but this was definitely refreshing. And thanks for doing this. This is great.
Yeah, I love having people on just talk video games. So that was
fun. To get away from the nonsense. God,
exactly. That's
perfect.
Basically,
we avoided
the point
it
behind my channel.
Yes,
just talking about video games and more so the good stuff. I mean, we can definitely talk about the bad stuff, but it's more so focused on the good stuff and talking about what we.
And that's something that I've been trying to not stress, but just definitely gotta bring up the positive. You can't just dwell always on the negative because then you just kind of lose your mind even more in this freaking world. And that's why I've tried to keep my eye out for Star Wars mods and stuff like that, maybe fan films that people have done, because certainly there's a plethora of that out there. And yeah, just the idea of just trying to keep that bit of positivity. Sure, you got a bunch of other negative junk going on, but bring up the positive every now and then. Have that there's still that good that people can have fun with and not just be miserable all the time.
Yeah, just because the state
not
of
be
the
the
world
perpetually
is
online,
right now,
but online.
You have to be sad about everything. You can still be happy about stuff.
Yeah, there's still some stuff
there's always a silver lining.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'm with you on that.
So, had a blast having you on to talk video games.
Yeah, thanks for having
me. What do you got going on coming up that you want to plug?
So tomorrow night, myself, Melee Games, and Static 2020, we are going to be playing
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the Ghostbusters Spirit Unleashed. I've been weirdly, so that's been another game I have been surprisingly having some fun with. I don't know if this is because it's Ghostbusters or what, but it's not terrible. Kind of a janky game. Not Euro jank, but janky. But it kind of plays like the last Ghostbusters game where they had the original cast all together and the new
one
that one
most people consider
it
to be
canon. The
Ghostbusters 3.
Exactly. So it kind of plays like that a little bit. And it has some fun moments where even you can switch it up and play as a ghost if you want. It doesn't have to be online. So I do like that you can play the offline mode, or at least certainly the quote unquote single player mode. So that'll be fun. Thursday night, I'll be joining Static for his weekend pregame.
That's right.
And then we'll be back this week, Saturday night Sith, because last week we took it off. But this week we'll be back to do our thing with myself and Jay Hitman at our usual time of 4 p.m. Mountain Time. So yeah, keep an eye out, folks.
Cool, excellent. I'll have open mic. It's sometime next week. I don't have a guest lined up yet, so if it ends up just being me, it'll probably be Thursday night, unless I get someone and Thursday night doesn't work for them. I don't have any.
Well, I appreciate you, rearranging things to. I know we've DM'd a couple of times, and we're trying to figure out how to get this figured out, and I'm just glad we could finally. And thanks for working with me on that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I pretty much say it every time at the end of the stream. If there's anyone out there who wants to come on and talk video games, let me know. We'll make it happen. or if anyone who's already been on open mic wants to come back on and talk more. That's the whole point of open mic, why it's called open mic. So I'm happy to just have people on and talk video games. So yeah, I'll have an open mic at some point next week, and then I'll have another party chat next Saturday, not this upcoming Saturday, but next Saturday. And I'm still looking for a guest host for that one. So yeah, so that about does it for me. So with that said, I had a great time talking with you and look forward to whenever next time is.
Absolutely, 100%.
And everyone else out there in the chat, thanks for hanging out with us for these 3 hours. Appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me and while we talk video games and whatever. So we will catch you next time. Everyone have a great night if you are still awake, because it is kind of late here in Pacific time, so it's even later if you're on the East Coast.
Yep.
But I will catch you all later, and in the meantime, everyone, game on.